I get so many people who come in now that are majoring in the minors and worried about minutia that's so far beyond their skill set that it doesn't matter. They want to super hyper focus on things that I just don't think they have any business doing. I still think the big three work for the first 5 years as far as building a base.
It's time to sit down, keep it real, and cut the bullshit. Welcome to Table Talk. Dr. Ian Butcher, I've been looking forward to this because you live in the real world, right? So you don't have this big digital footprint, right? So because you can't, because you're actually doing the thing.
I'm doing a lot of stuff.
Right? Where there's a lot of people that are really good at talking about doing the thing, but they don't do the thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of folks like that, yeah.
So how do you structure your day with 4 businesses?
So each day is a little different. It still feels like one job though, because the theme is overarching wellness. So,
well, what are the 4?
Okay, so I'm a sports chiropractor. So I have a clinic there in Athens, Ohio. We do a lot of sports-related injuries, but also mom and pop, so busy moms and dads, that kind of stuff, kids. We also have a meal prepping business, Butcher's Bites. We source things local. Like where I live at, people care about where it comes from. I can show you where the cows were walking around last week. I was a guy I went to high school with. We're buying like our eggs from the girl down the street type stuff. There are times where I can't get things local to Athens, but everything we can get is basically Ohio farms. So we do super local food. Everything's comparably priced to fast food, but it's just really good quality. A lot of folks I thought initially would be into tracking macros, and we get a lot of athletes, and we do OU athletics. We do men's and women's basketball, but it's been busy moms and dads that recognize this is the same price as fast food, just better quality, and they don't care about the macros or anything like that. We also have a gym, Doc's Gym, just opened up as of, I think, 5 days ago, 3 months. So it's been really exciting the last 3 months. And then I have the nutrition consulting company. So we do a lot of, mom and pop type nutritional interventions. Then I have a handful of elite athletes, which are the fun ones.
All right. So that's like 5. Well, no, that's 4 things. That's 4 things. So how do you lay this out?
So Mondays are almost exclusively the kitchen. We got a team of folks that come together. We've got like real deal chefs that are trained to do that kind of deal. We've got a handful of interns. We do a program through Ohio University's dietetics program. So we've been a preceptor there before. We've done programs through the prison system where we'll take prison cooks and give them work experience, get them food safe certified. We've done stuff with domestic violence survivors. We've got a lot of really cool components that come together for this one work day. We usually between 500 and 800 meals per week. Most of it's going to just local entities there. We have, I think, 5 or 6 different pickup locations. So we make all the food in one day. By Tuesday, people are ready to pick it up. On Tuesday, I get back to the clinic. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm chiro. Fridays, almost exclusively, I'm doing nutrition. So my day's kind of shaped around emailing people back. So that's kind of tedious. That's the kind of work that I don't like. Being stuck at a desk is hard for me. Then on the weekends, I do a lot of personal training. I enjoy that part. It's not a big revenue driver, but it's given me my joy in training back. As of 3 months ago, I started to miss seeing PRs regularly. So as I've been in this sport for a long time, they don't come regularly anymore. But when other people are PRing and you're helping them do that, man, it's contagious. It feels really good. And that's something you can feel in the environment. And so, I don't know, it's kind of driven me back to wanting to train hard again and enjoying the process and just seeing other people PR. It's contagious, man. It's really enjoyable.
I don't know why my brain went to this, but the first thing it went to is like, do you have 4 different QuickBooks accounts?
Yes. Yeah. Well, here's the wild thing. Before my wife and I got married, we had, 2 businesses together and 2 separate. We had properties together, properties separate. We have business with my sister, who's also our massage therapist at our clinic. And so our taxes are crazy. It's all over the place, man.
That's probably why I'm thinking about this, is because we just had to go through that.
Oh my gosh, it's miserable.
Where I can kind of relate because we have different product categories, right?
Yep.
And I can only imagine if each one of those categories was its own business,
right,
with its own paper trail that has to support that business.
Yeah,
that would suck.
Well, and that's not my kind of smart either. So I like doing the thing. I like, working hands-on stuff with folks, learning how to like lower your tax liability. Stuff like that has been tedious. And that's something I've had to, either find a professional I trust and say, okay, do what you would do with your money, with my money, or learn the thing myself. And a lot of the finance stuff, the tax stuff is kind of scary to me. That's just not my specialty. It's not my brand of smart. Some people it comes really easy to them, but it's not for me, man.
Now, all your stuff is in the same county, right? So when it comes to like the local sales tax, it's all the same.
All the same. Yeah.
See, we got to deal with sales tax in every county.
That's miserable.
Actually, Ohio, it's just one. It's like the largest. But then when you get in other states, we have to collect sales tax for every county of every state. Right. Which is, I mean, there's people that help you. It's automated. But that's another component of all this that people just don't think about.
So as far as the tax goes, that's really just the gym for us, because everything else is food or service. So we don't really have to do a ton on taxes with that, like as far as like sales tax. So, but no, everything else is definitely complicated. There's no doubt about that.
What about employees?
So most of our employees are part-time, because like for Butcher's Bites, it's just 1 day a week. So it makes it pretty easy. With the gym, we're so new that we don't really even need any employees yet. So everything's so automated now that we have a system called Gym Master. Most new gyms have that, where the door will unlock itself at 5 a.m. It relocks itself at 11 p.m. Our camera system identifies people as they come in the door. So if anyone brings someone else, I just charge them. And so it makes it really easy that I don't really have to be there. But that's the thing. For the last 3 months, I've wanted to be there, man. It's been really enjoyable. This is the job that doesn't feel like work. This is the thing that I'm probably most inspired to do. Chiropractic has been a lot of fun. It's been cool to help a lot of people, but it's just so much more emotionally and cognitively draining. When people bring you pain and a mystery and emotional pain and all this other stuff, and you got to figure out, is this pain mechanical? Is it because they're going through divorce? Is it because they're just overreaching? They got 15 kids. That can be kind of heavy at the end of the day. We're at the gym, man, I'm done at the end of the day, and I'm like, man, I could stay here 4 more hours. It feels good. It feels really good. Where chiro is harder in that way. I could probably take on more patients. I just don't want to lose my love for it. I really enjoy the chiropractic work. Sometimes I see my peers, their care starts to slip because they're doing too much, because they got to make money. And so we don't take insurance at all. Our prices are very, very affordable. My peers will say, how are you making it, man? How are you making it? And if I was just doing chiropractic the way I'm doing, I couldn't. It's the other things that supplement that I'm able to treat the way I want to treat. So that's been the cool thing.
So how did you get here?
So that's kind of the long story. My mom worked at the osteopathic school there at OU. It's a medical school there. And so I always thought I would go there because my tuition would be free. And so the whole time, all the way through high school, my mom kept saying, this is not what you want to do. And I didn't listen because of my mom, but she says, all of our DOs now, they don't, all the stuff you're talking about, stretching and strengthening and nutrition and hydration, she's like, they don't talk about that with their patients. She said, in fact, we've kind of changed their curriculum so they can also pass MD boards. A lot of them just know that, these symptoms go with these chemicals go with this symptom.
So when did you start caring about those things?
So that was early. That was like high school, because I was an athlete. I did baseball, basketball, golf, and track. I did 4 years of varsity basketball, 4 years of varsity track, and 4 years of varsity golf. And I started to recognize that nutrition was probably pretty important because I was always a really small guy. I was probably one of the smallest guys in my group until maybe my junior year of high school. I was still growing in height in college. I was a terrible eater. Just had a hard time getting enough food in. Even now, that's still the problem. And so I started to get a little bit of fascination with growing weight, probably because I was the smallest guy in my family too. They're all massive. All Americans, professional athletes, and of course, Tyler, my cousin, the world record holder. So being the small guy in my family was kind of just my role. I can remember being at grandma's house for like Sunday dinner. She'd be like, baby, are you going to eat something? My grandma had 3 chickens. What are you going to do? They're all massive. I can't keep up with them. She would even make my own loaf of bread. And my cousins would come through and grab a roll or whatever. She'd, hold on, those are Ian's. And so at 25, when I finally started growing, she said, finally, all that bread caught up. Like, I don't know that that's what it was, Mom. But I started to take a fascination with nutrition and training probably in high school. I didn't train like I train now in high school, of course, but I was fascinated by it. I'd go to like Barnes & Noble with my mom when there was actual bookstores, and she would be getting like Franklin Covey books and stuff like that, and I'd be over in the magazine section flipping through bodybuilders and powerlifters. I think that's where my fascination initially happened. So from there, I don't know. I knew I wanted to do something in health. I had a tour at AVOS to hamstring, and I went to a cool PT, and I started to get a little bit of fascination with health and fitness and the medical world. And so my mom said, okay, well, let me help you. Let's get you an internship at the med school. So I went and sat in a lecture hall, saw what classes were like. I got an internship there at the cadaver lab. I think she thought she was going to scare me away from it. But they make it so scientific that it doesn't really feel like a person initially there. of course, when you get
Kinda. I mean, I went through cadaver lab in
Yeah.
college, and it was definitely a person that was there.
well, so from my experience, when I first started, you get part of a body. So if you're working on like forearm flexors, you might get elbow down.
Yeah.
When I got to chiro school, you start initially with the person face down, so you're working on back muscle, so you don't see a face, and it's they cover everything else, so it feels like science. It's not until your last semester where you're getting to head and face and neck and that kind of stuff, and that's where it gets really personal. But I always felt like that was a great way to learn. So that's kind of almost how I measured med schools. And so when I was visiting schools and chiro schools, I want to see the gross lab. I want to see what that looked like. I like to be able to get in there and handle stuff. I think it's a great way to learn. I think that's where I really found out that anatomy is more of like an area code than an address. Every person we opened up, something was different. Same thing with my imaging. If we pull images on people, I can always find some weird stuff. And most things don't matter, don't change anything. But that's kind of where my fascination initially started. And then so she got me an internship with one of the lecturers at the med school. I worked with a guy who worked at the ER, and I followed this guy around for like 5 years.
5 years.
Well, because I was going through high school too. So, and then we were friends in undergrad and that kind of deal. So
you're a dork in high school.
Oh, I was a nerd.
Playing golf and hanging around in the ER.
Super nerd.
Yeah.
So the only reason I even played golf is because all my basketball buddies, we had to have a sport. And so we're not going to hang out. We didn't want to play football. Our football team wasn't great back then. Our school was small. Now I think they're at Division 7 and the way things are restructured, but I think back then they were Division 3. So I graduated with like 140 people, not a lot. So I followed this guy around. He was kind of like a friend now. And I recognized my mom was right. Everything that he and I talked about, all the strength and stretching and nutrition stuff and all the hydration stuff, all the stuff that really matters, the big picture items, he didn't have time to talk to his patients about those things because he had quotas as far as, time codes and stuff like that. And so he would tell them, okay, we'll do our exam and these are the meds you need. And we never really talked about, is your sleep quality, is your digestion good? Some of the things that really mattered to me. So I'm going into my senior year, I'm getting ready to take MCAT and stuff, and I just freak out. And I realize, oh my God, she's right. This guy probably doesn't love his job. He likes it. It's affording him the time, the resources to do the things he does love to do, which is valuable too. But at 18, I feel like you should probably try to pick something you like. That's why I feel like internships and shadow opportunities are probably the best educational experience you can get. As someone who's been a professional student, I think you need to go in there and see what it looks like. I get a ton of kids from the college that come to our office there, and they've got a major that probably doesn't make money and maybe they don't even need to go to school for, and they've never even been in the environment where they're trying to work. And I'll say, so have you been there? I'm like, no, I haven't been there. I said, well, you should go see that. So whether it's, I don't know, a graphic artist or something like that, go there, see what it looks like. Two things can happen. One, it's exactly what you want. Teach me, show me, groom me, show me how to do this. I can do it your way. Two, what's probably even more valuable is find out, I don't like this. I don't want to spend the rest of my life doing this. So I freaked out. I shadowed every doc in town. Eye docs, ear docs, PTs, athletic trainers, strength conditioning coaches, anybody who would see me, and never considered chiropractic. The chiropractic, the medical model kind of shit on chiropractors. Of course, it still kind of does. And so I never considered that. I was still playing a lot of basketball at that time. And I went to an alumni basketball tournament and I met a guy who was a good player. And I think that's kind of why I was drawn to him anyways. Good athlete. And he said he was a sports doc and didn't specify it was chiropractic. So I said, oh, let me come shadow you, man. So I show up at this guy's office the following week and I'm like, oh, chiropractic. I don't really know anything about this. But his patients were limping in and walking out. His schedule was comfortable. He was living comfortable. His patients loved him. He was helping people. And so I like, maybe there's something to this. So I spent a little time with that guy. We went to lunch and talked about some options there. And so some of the information he gave me is when you leave here, Google the highest board scores in the country. It doesn't make sense to go to a crappy school and potentially not be able to work. So you got to pass boards to be able to work. So I typed in, highest chiropractic board scores in the country. At the time, it was New York Chiropractic College. Now they've rebranded to Northeast College of Health Sciences because there's more stuff there than just chiropractic. There was back then too. But they have, Eastern medicine doctorates there and anatomy instruction. That's actually where I did my nutrition master's too. And so I went and visited the school. And it was kind of an education island. There's nothing going on in this town other than this college, this chiropractic college. But that's also kind of what I needed at that time. School was pretty easy up till then. I never really learned how to study until that point. So I'm really fortunate. I picked a school that wasn't too much fun. I bartended all the way through undergrad too, and I used to be kind of the king of fun. And I think that was good to get that out of my system. But I think it was good to pick a spot where I really had to focus on just that. So I show up at this school for my visit, and I'm walking across the campus. I'm trying to be super professional, and I've got my suit on and stuff. And I'm walking with an administrator, and she's pointing at different stuff. And, this is the golf course, and this is the student center. And this guy yells my nickname, my bartending nickname, across the courtyard. And I'm like, dude, I'm 10 hours from home. Like, who knows me here? And I'm like, please, especially with my nickname, like, oh God, please don't know me from the bar.
What was it?
It was a gym bro. Mm-hmm. So he's in a suit, and he comes right up to me, and I recognize him immediately from undergrad. And gives me a big hug. Man, you're going to school here now. And I'm like, oh, no, I'm just visiting. I'm just checking it out. And I'm like, please don't think I know this guy. Like, this guy's a meathead. Please don't think I know this guy. You know what I mean? Like, because I'm trying to be super professional. And so he's like, hey, man, give me a call when you leave here. And I didn't even have his number. And so the administrator turns to me. She's like, hey, do you know Dr. Matt? I'm like, I know, kind of, just from the gym. He's a bro from back home. She's like, Dr. Matt, he's won this award and this award and this award and this award. He's the best doc. I'm like, oh, yeah, me and Matt, we're tight. We're tight. We're tight. So after that, I did find his number. I call him. He helps me find a new gym. He helps me find a place to live. I've been in Cairo 12 years. I still call him to this day. It's one of those dudes that he does it on a really, really efficient level. He knows how to run a chiropractic office really, really, really well. And so there's times where I still call him with business questions or maybe even diagnostic questions. But someone I'm really glad to have made a connection with. In undergrad, we kind of trained together on and off every once in a while, but I didn't really know him as, you know how it is, those gym relationships where you see the same guy in the gym for 15 years and don't know his name, but you always give him the nod. When you see him out in the wild, though, we're best buddies. So you see me at the grocery store, I'm dapping you. Hey, brother, man, how you been? How's your training been? It's a different feeling. But no, this guy helped me.
So true.
Helped me find a place to live and a gym and everything. Really great guy.
So during that, when did the competing come in?
Okay, so
bodybuilding.
That was an undergrad. My best friend in undergrad was a bodybuilder, really into it. We trained together, and I was just kind of along for the ride because I'd had sports my entire life. So you had this 2-hour window where you were doing movement. When I got to undergrad, I had this 2-hour window where what am I supposed to do? And so I was like, well, maybe I'll start lifting more. So kind of found my way into it. We found a really great mom and pop gym. We drive 40 minutes one direction to train. And I just kind of followed this guy around. He was stronger than me, and he pushed me. So I just followed him around. So he's getting ready for the Mr. Cincinnati or the Kentucky Muscle back in that day. And he was coached by Jason Theobald, Scooby Prep. I'm sure you've probably known him too. So at that time he was living in Cincinnati. And so we drove to Cincinnati so he could do his check-in. Because back then, you wanted to see him in person. And so we drive to Cincinnati, and he's runs to the bathroom and puts on his trunks or whatever. And first we pull up to the house, and we knock on the door, and Jason comes to the door, and he's like 5'5". And I'm like, this little guy's your coach? He's 160 pounds or whatever. And so my buddy Jamie goes to the bathroom and puts on his trunks, and he's like, hey man, have you ever bodybuilt before? I'm like, nah, man, that's thong, bro. I'm not doing that. And I'm like shitting on this entire sport, right? He's like, hey, well, go ahead and peel. Let's see what you got. He's like, you got a pretty good physique. So I peel, and he just starts tearing me to shreds. Oh, this is imbalanced. This is asymmetrical. This is weak. You need to bring this up. And I'm like, the whole way home, 3 hours, I'm fuming. This little, like, how, what? I thought, because of course at that point, I thought it was the baddest thing there was. You're going to be at 20 or whatever. And so that Monday I called him. Like, at that point, I don't think he was taking just anybody. So I called him like, hey, would you take me? He's like, yeah, man. So I got tricked into bodybuilding. So Tuesday I'm on a diet, right? So I'm like 10 weeks into this diet, and I'm like, this is miserable. I don't want to do this again. But I'm also the kind of person where I don't like to let people down. So if I want to get something done, I'm going to tell everybody, hey, this is the next thing I'm on, because I don't want to let people down. So people knew I was going to do this thing, and I'm like, I'm not giving up. I don't want people to think I'm a quitter. So I finished out this bodybuilding diet, and of course, your first time through, you're emaciated, man. What you think you look like in your mind and what actually comes out on the day of, it's like, oh my gosh, this is not what I thought it would be. But we did really well, won a couple classes. But from then I knew what I wanted to look like. So I took off like 6 years. And I was like, I just got to grow. And that was the goal. That was the only plan is you talk to the judges. Back then they didn't give you details like, oh, well, the lateral head of your tricep maybe needs to come up a little. It was like, yeah, you got a good shape, good structure, more size, just everywhere. And that was the plan. There wasn't a ton of details. So I just trained hard and heavy, kind of power building style for 6 years. At that time, Tyler was pretty heavy into his powerlifting. And so I was kind of living, parallel to that too, and chasing strength too. And it kind of just worked well together. I was doing a lot more accessory movement than they were doing. I was doing a lot more hypertrophy work than they were doing. but it was enjoyable. It made training fun. The hardest part back then and even now was just getting enough food in. Eating beyond being full and then add another plate and that kind of stuff. That was miserable. That's probably the part that one of the factors that's driven me away from being competitive is I don't want to eat like that anymore. Getting shredded was easy because my body is kind of ectomorph style anyways. It wants to be a little leaner, but getting enough food in to maintain the size was miserable. So I think that's one of the factors that kind of drove me away from competing after I started working. When I was in college, it's no big deal, but.
Do you see that with, because nutrition clients are going to fall in different boxes, right? But there's going to be the ones that are going to fall in that one box where when you say hard, let's elaborate on that a little bit, because it has to be sustained. Right? Because you need that calorie surplus for an X period of time to where you can push it for 4 or 5 days. But then pull back for 2, and then that whole week just got fucked.
To quantify it would be difficult, but just always being uncomfortable. I'm sure that, in your prep days that you may have had times where you were chasing a bloat to
yeah, but that's different because and the look didn't matter.
Oh, sure.
Right.
Sure.
So yes, I get the uncomfortable part.
Well, back then look didn't matter either. Back then we didn't have to stay shredded all year round because we weren't really post on Instagram. So guys would get fat. Their face would balloon up. We were cool with that. It was kind of a badge of honor to get a little sloppy.
So how did you go about it? Because the way I went about it is I established a weight I could not ever be under.
Okay.
Like there was like the danger zone where if I was under 283, like fucking danger zone, like bad. Like 287, good. Like 295, right where I need to be because I would bloat up to the 308s the last week. But every now and again, so let's say it hits like 279, then it's like, fuck. But I'm weighing myself literally. Actually, when I'm gaining weight, I'm weighing myself at night after all day in the biggest meal. And when you're losing weight, it's in the morning after you take a shit. And so I use the scale.
So at my heaviest, I was 265, which felt pretty uncomfortable for me at like 5'11" or so. But it wasn't a number that I was chasing. It was a feeling. So I would have all my programmed meals out. So this is what I need to, try to grab 5 pounds of muscle this year or whatever the goal was. Everything beyond that sizzled me extra. And so I always found that with super satiated foods like lasagna, there's always more room for lasagna. So I would knock out all my meals for the day and save like a slice of lasagna that my mom made or something like that, or maybe add some extra oils to a shake. I always want to make sure I went over what I absolutely had to do. So whatever my coach drew up, I would get that, or whatever I drew up maybe for off season, and then add some more. Just to make sure that I was going over whatever the bare minimum was. But I didn't really quantify it by a certain weight. I competed at like 212. I wasn't super heavy. But no, at my heaviest, I was probably 265, which felt pretty uncomfortable.
So what would the check-ins look like?
So those are like a weekly deal. Same kind of.
Even off season?
No. So in the off season, I don't know, probably monthly. Yeah, probably monthly. The pictures are valuable. I feel like measurements are probably a little bit better for a bodybuilder. Let's say that your nutrition's A1, your training's A1. You might not see a huge shift in the scale, but you might see a huge shift in your measurements. So let's say that, your weight didn't change this month, but your waist came down 1/2 inch. Might be some progress there. So that probably means I recomped some fat, probably grew some new tissue. So we relied mostly on, even back then, we skin folded, we bod pod, which, there's some variance to that, of course, but it gave us some framework. And so we wanted to keep body fat around 14%. That's where I felt like I grew my best. From person to person, that set point might be a little bit different. But if I had, to me, 14% was about perfect for as growth. I was lean enough where I could still see abs, but I grew my best around, sub 15.
The heat is here, and I'm already hearing stories about people cramping and how it's screwing up their training sessions. The research shows optimal health outcomes at sodium levels 2 to 3 times the recommended level. As meatheads, we've known this for years. Element was built around this. For the past 2 years, I've used Element in my morning oatmeal. I put it in my coffee. I use it during training. Each stick has 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium. There's no sugar, no fillers. It's just what your body needs. stable energy with no crash, maintaining optimal fluid levels for peak performance in the gym, improves mental focus, helps regulate stress, and supports deeper sleep. Element just outdid themselves with this lemonade iced tea flavor. Same formula, but they added 50 milligrams of caffeine with L-theanine and polyphenols. Unlike isolated caffeine, this slows the curve. We all know that caffeine can dehydrate you. Well, not when it's mixed with Elements. Go to drinkelements.com. You get a free 8-count sample pack with every order. I've never heard of anyone having a bad experience, but if you do, they make it right immediately, no questions asked. So you know more now.
Sure.
Like you said, with a master's in nutrition, and you work with nutritional clients. Sure. So if you're working with somebody that is in that off season, that's not, I guess the power lifter, I guess it really doesn't matter, what that domain is. Then how are you working with them in the off season to be able to add muscle?
Sure. So,
actually it does matter, right? Because the power lifter, the visual
absolutely
isn't going to be this. The example you just gave, like losing a little bit in the waist, would not apply to the power lifter as it would apply.
So, with a bodybuilder, what we're trying to do is I want to build their food up more and more and more as they're able to tolerate it. I still want them to be hungry. If I can keep you hungry, you're usually a little bit more insulin sensitive, so your metabolic response is going to be a little bit better. What I'll do is I'll push somebody, we'll bump food up every few weeks until they start to lose their appetite. And then we'll back up. We'll clean things up for a while, maybe 2 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that. They'll generally lose a little weight until they get hungry again, and then I start bumping it back up again until we either reach this time to get ready for a show, or this year we're trying to do a certain weight we're trying to hit, or a weight cap. It depends on if it's classic physique because they have weight caps, or if it's an open bodybuilder, we're just going as hard as we can go. But we'll pull back when they start to lose their appetite. That tells me a little bit about their insulin sensitivity.
Now you're also a judge, right?
Yeah, so I've done some of the powerlifting judge stuff, but none of the bodybuilding stuff.
Okay.
The only reason I did some of the certifications for the powerlifting stuff, with Tyler powerlifting at a high level, I thought eventually one day we would run some meets, because I've been to so many meets and most of them were terrible. Just the way they've been run, I like efficiency. I don't like to waste steps. And some of these events we've been to over the years have been awful. And I'm thinking about how I would run one and how great it would be and how concise it would be. And we'd have, leaderboards with metrics that grandma can understand too, and it's not just in kilos and all that kind of stuff, and maybe a lifter bio profile, and the way we'd expedite would be efficient. And so that's why I started to chase that realm, just because I thought maybe one day when we're old, this would be a fun thing for us to put on a couple of events. I didn't maintain those certifications, but it'd be easy to go back and get those again.
So going back to working with somebody in the off season, then where are you starting their macros? Where's everything going?
So usually what I start with people is when I get somebody new, I'll say, what are you doing currently? And so what I'll do is I'll do what they're doing currently, and then they'll change.
What does that normally look like?
So if they'll say, well, my protein's at 1.5 grams per pound of body weight. Cool, that's where I'm gonna start you. And my carbs are at this currently. That's where I'll start you. I'll start wherever you say you're starting currently.
Well, how often is that actually panned out to be true?
Never. It's never. Because they're not considering like, oh well, I'm at mom's house, a handful of M&Ms, and it's convenient for me to just run through Starbucks real quick, and there's all this other shit in my coffee. They don't consider any of that stuff. But over a month or a couple of weeks, you start to see, he's changing already. And then from there is where we start making our calculated adjustments. We can start anywhere. As long as you take some measurements, take some metrics, something you can quantify, play with a variable or two, give their body an opportunity to respond, and then add a new variable.
That's so interesting. They get leaner just doing what they say they were doing.
Right. Exactly. Because they just don't consider all those little factors that add up.
Yeah.
But when someone's there checking in, they're not going to scream, maybe not the M&Ms, I got to call you in tomorrow. You know what I mean? And so it's a little easier to be compliant when you have that accountability tool. All
right. So then as they're going through and they start to hit sticking points or whatever you want to call it, what do you manipulate? Everybody's going to be different, but there's general categories of people. Are you manipulating the carbs first?
Sure. So generally, yeah. But it depends on the situation. So I've got folks who maybe they hit a sticking point because they're overreaching. So maybe they're, have got 4 kids and they've had soccer every night till 9 and they've been training at 4 a.m. and they haven't been to bed till 12:30 or whatever. And I know they're probably overreaching. Maybe they've reached a sticking point because they're not getting the kind of recoverability they need. And so for some of those folks, it's almost a little bit of a craft. So, the literature points us in some framework, but from there's a craft to it. And you've seen that when you're diagnosing movements here with folks, their powerlifting movements. You kind of just get the feeling for what are they saying, but what do they mean? A lot of times people say, oh no, I feel great. And you're looking at them, they got bags in their eyes and they're lying to themselves. I say, hey, take 2 days off. And they're like, oh no, man, I'm 8 weeks out. I gotta keep burning through. And I'm like, just take 2 days off to see where we're at. Stick to your menu, stick to your steps. Let's see where we're at. And a lot of times you'll get a little metabolic uptick and you'll start to see fat fall off again. So it depends on the sticking point. So, but generally carbs are an easy place to start. I've got folks who tolerate carbs better, folks who tolerate fats better, and you got to figure that out in the beginning. So if it's the first time I work with somebody, I might do a giant macro isocaloric shift. So I'll keep the calories the same and maybe shift a ton of their calories toward fat and lower the carbs and see how they respond. And then keep the calories the same and shift a bunch toward the carbs and lower the fats to see how they feel. It also depends on if they're enhanced. So if they're a natural athlete, there's a number I try not to go below with fats for very long because it's going to impact sex hormones. So in the beginning, I'm trying stuff. You could really start anywhere as long as you start trying stuff, start measuring, give their body an opportunity to respond, and then make an intelligent adjustment from there. So with somebody, it's the first time I've worked with them, I want to go a couple weeks early. So if it shows that 12 weeks out, ideally I want to start like 16 or 20. So we have some weeks to screw up there, try some stuff, maybe even try a mock peak. But if it's somebody I've worked with a bunch, there's a handful of guys I've worked for years, we can get ready quick. You start to learn what they need. You've got this dialogue where you trust their judgment. They know their body too, and you're giving them a little bit more freedom to make some decisions. Like, hey man, how do you feel? Or maybe even talk to their training partner. Hey bro, is he dragging ass right now? Yeah man, I don't know. I think he's burnt out. So being able to kind of like, I don't know, turn it a little bit into a craft and try stuff and make intelligent adjustments, I think is what
where do you see people making the biggest mistakes when it's coming to gaining size and strength with a nutrition side?
Their training sucks. A lot of people, their training sucks. There are a lot of people who they say they train hard. They just don't know what that looks like. They've never, now especially with the physique sports, it's getting to the stage is the important part. That's what people want to do. To me, back then, the training was the fun part. That was enjoyable. I didn't even really like competing that much. I like the me versus you. I like that part, but I didn't like the artistic part of it and all that kind of stuff. But I liked the process of bodybuilding and the building part. That was a lot of fun for me. But now I don't know. It's different because the goal is just get to the stage. It might be the first day you've been in the gym. You're like, oh, I'm going to compete next year. Okay. Well, I don't know. It's changed a little bit with that.
How do you see it in not just the clients that you have, but you've had the gym open now for a while.
Yeah.
And you've been training in gyms for quite a while.
Yeah.
So when you say they're not training as hard, what's that look like?
Hyper focused on minutia. A lot of folks come in. So when I was a beginner, I was a real beginner. And so you look around the gym and, all right, what's that big guy doing over there? All right, when he's done with that, I'm gonna go over and try that. I'll take some weight off. Okay, I'm move my feet up here. Okay, that feels pretty good. I'll move my feet down. I don't really like that. We tried stuff. You got a feel for what it should feel like. Maybe you'd watch a Ronnie Coleman video and like, okay, today he's training legs. He's gonna leg press today. He's gonna hack squat today, and he deadlifted. Okay, I'm gonna do those 3 movements. I didn't worry about so much the minors. I get so many people who come in now that are majoring in the minors and worried about minutia that's so far beyond their skill set that it doesn't matter. They'll come in, they want to super hyper focus on things that I just don't think they have any business doing. I still think the big 3 work for the first 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, whatever, as far as building a base. When you're in the beginning, I don't think we need to fine tune the shape of your tricep. I think you need to get bigger everywhere and just chase as much size for as long as you can when you're in those early training years. It doesn't mean, you're an 18-year-old. It might be you're 40 years old, but you just start training. In the beginning, those newbie gains are real. And so I want to get the most out of that. And that means training heavy for as long as you can.
I like what you said, that not majoring in the minors, that's beyond their skill set.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that definition of that, because now that you're older and you're a little more fucked up and you've accumulated some miles, right?
Right.
So you have that base skill set developed,
sure,
right? To where it makes sense, to us, I'm sure we would agree that you can take a movement like a lat pull down and tighten it up and do it in that minor form.
Sure.
To be able to activate, your lats more than that heavy muscle fucking type thing. But I don't know if you can do that if you haven't majored in the other thing first.
You got it.
It's almost like you have to earn the right to be able to use a slower tempo,
Absolutely.
heat contraction, and all this other kind of crap.
Yep.
Which if I did that when I was younger, I never would have fucking grown.
Absolutely.
Not only that, but would you even know how to contract it in the first place?
Exactly. And so this comes with reps. So, I don't know, I'm trying to think of an example here. I don't know. I'm a form guy. I like good, clean form. And I would never say to somebody, hey, your form's too clean. But there are times where I think the form is a little too clean. I think if you're activating the target muscle, you're toward the end of the set, it's okay to let the form go a touch to eke out a couple extra reps. So let's say we'll look back at like Johnny Jackson and like Branch Warren. You remember that really ballistic type of training they did? So they're doing like laterals with like 70s. And people would argue, oh, they're not really activating. They're not really activating because they're doing so much body English to get it up. Yeah, but what about the eccentric? They're controlling that weight back down. So the way, to me, those actomyosin bonds work, that tissue damage you're getting is still valuable. And so to get a partial or get, maybe a little sloppy toward the end, I'm okay with that, man. I think you only know that edge until you've been there. So now that, reps in reserve and all that kind of stuff is a big deal. Like, we didn't have any of that back then. It's just, you train till you hurt, took a couple of days off, and you train till you hurt again. Now that that's more of a thing, I don't know. My 10 back then is a 6 now. My 10 now would probably been a 14 back then. You know what I mean? And I don't think you get an opportunity to feel what that kind of intensity feels like until you've been there. You don't know what the edge looks like until you've been there. And I think it just comes with, spending some time in the gym with guys who are stronger than you and doing loads that are probably a little bit too heavy. So you know what that should feel like.
Well, it's movement selection can also play into this as well. Because you can do, if we stick on the laterals that you were talking about, you could do one arm side lateral with, braced against the rack and just muscle fuck up.
Right. Yeah.
Like 100 pounds or whatever it's going to be. Right. And then you can reduce that all the way down to lying on an incline bench with a 10-pound dumbbell. And in both cases, you can go to failure. Right. So how much muscle's actually being activated and how much adaptation is going to take place between those two, I don't know. Right. What I do know is if I did that first one now, I'd be fucked up for 3 weeks.
Right.
If I do the second one, maybe I don't grow as much. Right. But what I see is the lifters that you're talking about are defaulting to that end spectrum.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Which is, you kind of do that when you're hurt.
You
know what I'm saying? That's our default.
Right.
Like, this is what you do when you're so fucked up you can't do the other thing. But you got to know where you fall in the spectrum.
Absolutely.
Of that movement. So you're seeing this in the gym.
Oh, absolutely. Well, so the same example there. Let's say you run a marathon. Yeah, your legs are going to be pumped in a marathon too. But that doesn't mean you're growing new tissue. I want people to stay within bodybuilding and powerlifting rep ranges. So this is accepted rep ranges. I think if we can live within that, and so I kind of use a +or-2 rule. So let's say if the rep range is 10, if you can't get 8, we're gonna go down a load. If you get more than 12, we're gonna go up. And so that's kind of how I regulate the poundage there for a beginner. But now I think it comes with experience. The only reason you can auto-regulate now is because you put in, 40 years of training. They don't know what that should feel like. And I don't think you can get to the point of auto-regulation if you're not putting in time and reps.
I don't know either. I've been trying to wrap my head around how
to quantify that.
Well, I know how to teach it to somebody if they're in the gym, right? But if you were to give like a certification on that, it's like, fuck.
Right.
There's metrics, there's grip, there's all these different metrics that you can go off of. But all those don't mean a fucking thing to me.
Right. I'm with you. Totally.
You see, I don't know how to go about teaching that except through experience and being around those other people to be able to kind of see that. And it's just, I haven't figured it out. It's been 40 fucking years. You should be able to kind of figure it out, but you can see it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
When it happens, but you can also see when it's not being developed.
Sure.
Like there's an age that you can get away with a lot of stupid shit. Do the stupid shit because you can get away with it.
Absolutely.
So you don't have to do it when you're older.
Right. I agree.
And so it's figuring that shit out, which is with So with the people that you're working with, what are the splits like? Take the power lifters out. So now we're just talking people who don't compete. It's just physique stuff. Are most of their splits body part bro type splits, or is it based upon lifts? Or
It'll depend. It depends on kind of what they need to do. So it'd be different for a classic physique guy who has a weight cap versus an open bodybuilder, maybe. So if it's someone who needs to bring up their legs and back, we're going to treat it more like a power building situation. If it's somebody who's working in fine detail, yeah, it might be higher rep ranges, lower load. But in most cases, a lot of folks are just busy moms and dads. And so we're building out programming that are like, upper lower splits or push pull legs type splits. Generally, this is what will happen. People will come in and say, hey, I want to weight train. We'll talk about their schedule, their goals or limitations. And they'll say, okay, I want to do, my sister wants to do a 5K in March. My daughter's getting married in February or whatever. And my knee hurts, so I don't want to squat. I'd like to do 4 days a week. And so what I'll say is, okay, let me build out your programming for 3 days a week. That way, with the beginner, they don't know about, the neural learning that happens in the beginning and why they'll just get strong kind of on accident just by learning the movements.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the beginning, I'll let them stack some wins. And so I don't tell them that they should be getting stronger. I'll let them kind of see those changes happen. And that way they kind of buy into it. But the other thing I'll do to kind of not trick them, but encourage them is if they want to do 4 days, I'll build out our split to cover all their bases in 3. And that way, if they have time for the 4th day, it feels extra. And they're like, oh God, I got an extra day this week. Whereas if I build it out 4 and, little Jimmy's soccer practice got moved and you couldn't train today, people start to get resentful and they're like, I'll start fresh on Monday. And I'm like, it's Wednesday, dude. You're not going to start fresh on Monday. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So there are some kind of tricks I built in the beginning there to help them stack wins and build some confidence. I think that's one thing my parents did really well for me as a kid is they let me stack wins in the beginning and kind of leverage my competitiveness. My dad was a high school coach for like decades. And so I grew up with a coach. And so now looking back, there's some things that him and mom did. And my mom was an instructor too. And so she would, I don't know, like all those Franklin Covey books, I'll reread them as adults. I'm like, my mom was doing that to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I think stacking wins in the beginning can be a big help for sure.
I was going to kind of circle back to that because those Franklin Covey books, I've read basically all of them, right?
Yeah.
Is more the entrepreneur side.
Yeah, sure.
So do you think that's where that came from?
No, my dad has been a business owner for like 40 years, something like that. He's a painting contractor. So I picked up life lessons along the line all the time. And he would never say, hey, this is a lesson. I've got tons of stories like that where he would do something and I wonder why he did that. And now as an adult, I can see, oh my gosh, I see what he was doing there. So I think that's where the entrepreneurial stuff came from. I was just kind of always been around it. And of course, my wife, she's very motivated also. Her family are also business owners too. So together, it's been a pretty cool team.
I've been training for over 4 decades now, and keeping track of all my training metrics has always been a big part of that. It wasn't until later on that I realized that keeping track of your internal metrics are just as important, if not more important, the longer you're in this game. Most primary care physicians, if you go in for any type of issue, they'll look for what's off, but they're not necessarily looking for how to optimize where your labs are for where you want to go. That's where Merrick Health comes in. Merrick Health does advanced blood work with medical providers around the world and a health coach who helps build a plan around your goals. I worked with Merrick to build a custom lab panel for this show. They have guided optimizations that can help you set you up with a health coach to be able to work through what your goals are, from the prescriptions to supplements, just the whole deal. Don't have to do that. You can just do the lab panels. They have options. You can find this at merrickhealth.com/tabletalk for 10% off your first order. One of the best decisions that I ever made was to partner with Merrick. So I highly suggest you head over to merrickhealth.com/tabletalk and get started today. So your mom and dad were together the whole time?
Oh my gosh, yeah. They've been together since like 14, man. Cool. Yeah, forever.
So, because I grew up in a household where my mom and dad, they owned a business. They owned the same business, sure, right? Sure. So I was learning lessons I didn't even know I was learning until 20 years later. Right. Just shit that would happen at the dinner table or listening to my dad, with a customer on the phone.
Sure.
You know,
Oh yeah, yeah.
oh man, I remember a couple calls because he was in the high-end appliance business, high-end strength equipment. So
Yeah. Same.
That's all
It's the same.
you know, and they would call because something be fucking broken. It'd be Thanksgiving.
Right.
And just,
You gotta listen.
There's times when he would go after them like, what the fuck are you got me?
Right.
You know, so there's always, there's a tipping point to where the customer's wrong.
Sure. Absolutely.
Right. So you're kind of learning all these lessons and you don't really realize it.
Right.
You know, on service, you know, on sales, on not so much on balance, because I guess if we learned anything, it's that business is 24/7.
24/7. Yep.
You know, where it's always there. What are some of the other things that you like, stories like that?
Okay.
That you
So after chiro school, I had an externship with a chiropractor in the Cleveland area who was doing a lot of really cool stuff. He was working with professional bodybuilders. We worked directly with Phil Heath, with a lot of pro wrestlers. It was fun. It was enjoyable. He took me to cool places. We go to Cavs games and stuff. But it wasn't my own, and I missed home. For me, home is who, not necessarily where. And I just want to get back home to my people. So I told my parents I was going to leave this pretty cool job to open my own spot. And as a kid, we would always go out of town to eat. And I was assuming it's because there was better restaurant choices. And so I tell my parents, hey, I'm going to open my own spot. And I goes, okay, great. Let's go to dinner. I said, okay, let's go to dinner. And mom's like, where do you want to go? He said, we're going to Texas Roadhouse right in town. On a Saturday night, you know what I mean? And I'm like, okay. So I'm looking at mom and she's like, I don't know, shrugs. So we get to the restaurant, we wait forever, we order the food, it sets there cold for 3 hours while people come with dad. Hey coach, have you seen the boys? Hey Joe, I want to call you on Monday about that barn I want to get done. And he was kind to every single person the whole time. Doesn't say a word. We take the cold food, put it in the truck, we drive home, and that was it. And so I think the lesson was, hey man, if you want to do this in a small town, you got to always be on. And there's no way to kind of turn that off.
This is a side question, but how many rolls were you putting down?
How many rolls?
Yeah, Texas Roadhouse.
Oh my gosh, we put down a lot of rolls there, especially after 3 hours when you're trying to get the heck out of there, for sure.
Yeah, those are dangerous.
They are dangerous.
It's my favorite restaurant.
The honey butter.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's cracked. Yeah.
Yeah. I had situations like that. The other good thing about that was, man, I was working when I was.
Me too.
And
me too, man.
Like cleaning the appliances and shit like that. Yeah. And then as soon as I could work, I think it was 13. It was a dishwasher at a friend at his restaurant, just to be able to learn.
Sure.
And because he knew everybody, and you're in a smaller town than Finley. Finley's still a small town.
Yeah.
And then he stuck me in factories.
Okay.
You know, so I could see what I didn't want to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
and then
absolutely.
you can't fucking quit because it's like your dad's word with his buddy's word that you're going to be there from here to here. And if you break that, you know, it makes him look like shit.
Right.
And then you're going to hear it on the back end. And there's a lot, which is weird when you're a parent.
Sure.
Right. Because now you have kids. You're like, oh, fuck. Yeah. Like, what am I doing? Like, but it's interesting, right? Because if you grow up in that environment, you kind of know what to expect.
Sure.
Where when I'm speaking with other people that are considering starting their own business, but they grew up in this different environment.
It's not for everybody.
No, it's not. And I don't think they know what they're getting into.
Exactly.
It's like this shit you see online about entrepreneurs is all bullshit.
Well, people think you start the business and boom, you're rich. It's not like that. You're starting at the bottom, man.
Well, as soon as you start a business, you automatically make $250,000.
Everyone thinks you're rich immediately.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
And well, the other thing is you're proof of this, right? Your digital footprint is not big.
No, I recognize that's important and I should spend more time on that. And that's how people shop now. But I hate it. It's so cringy to me.
No, but you're doing 4 fucking businesses. You know,
I could always hire someone to do that. I know, I recognize it's important.
Is it though, for what you do?
Not for the meals, potentially, for the gym, potentially. For chiro, you don't find me on accident. But no, I don't know. That's how people shop now. So they want to see what your clinic looks like before they get there. So that kind of stuff. Yeah.
No, but because I'm sure you're on social media, right? So you'll look every now and again. There's what seems to me is the cleanest, best social media post with people who are coaches or whatnot are the ones that have no fucking clients.
Yeah.
Because the ones that have a lot of clients and they're doing a lot of the work or work in the gym, they don't have the time, you know, to edit and do all this other shit. They're the ones that it's just like the phone just turns on and like records and it just is like grainy and the sun's all fucked up. Right. And they're putting it out. Though, to me, it's like that's validation that this person's actually doing what they say they do.
Well, that and then so with a lot of my posts, I don't know. when my buddies post and I scroll and I see their face, I'm immediately scrolling past. It's so gimmicky and stuff. I don't even enjoy consuming that.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I've always joked with my patients, I'll never be famous enough to do stuff like this because I'm not willing to sensationalize anything. I'm like the patterns guy, you know what I mean? I'm looking for patterns. That's not exciting. And so I think with a lot of social media now, guys will have a really good idea. They'll have a really good theory, and they put this theory out there and people love it. And then it becomes their identity because people love it. And they get so hyper-focused on this tiny little minutia that they lose the big picture. And so they're this is the one thing you need for back pain. This is the one exercise. And where if you're really evidence-based, the answer is almost always, it depends. So everyone's so different. The literature will give us framework and somewhere to start, but when someone asks me, like I've done podcasts in the past, they're like, well, how many grams of protein should we be eating? I'm like, you or all of us? Because that answer is very, very broad. So the answer is it depends. So it's difficult to give people usable information that you can give to a broad population. And so I'm just not super, like, I'm not willing to sensationalize a bunch of stuff. Like, this is the one supplement you need. I just don't feel like that about most things. I know you hate moderation, but there are some things in moderation that work really well.
Oh, I don't hate moderation. It's the overemphasis on one aspect despite all the other.
Sure.
So if we go with the powerlifter,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So powerlifter has to know the training, the nutrition has to be somewhat on point.
Sure,
it has to be good enough to be able to recover from the training,
right?
So if you look at 5 main pillars, they have to be good enough in all those 5.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I'm
right.
Yep. 100%.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Just good enough.
Yeah.
Because what happens is if they hyper specialize in one,
Yep.
then they become not good enough in some of the others, then everything else falls down.
Okay.
But some people will make them think they have to be hyper focused on one of those pillars, right? Where the technique has to be good enough to break PRs. Where coming from me, that's going to be fucked up because I think it should be better and better and better and better.
Right. I agree.
But the fact is, it has to be good enough because if all we do is technical work, but we don't do the strength work, you can't there's not enough stimulus to need a recovery, but everything else falls apart.
I agree.
Then you squat is beautiful, but it sucks.
Yeah.
Right. So
absolutely.
It's balancing that good enough, which is it's kind of that depends across all these different levels.
Yeah.
And then people just miss out on the whole thing because it's like, oh fuck, my recovery's just fuck. They don't know it's fucked. They think it's fucked because they're being told it's fucked.
Exactly.
Like my recovery's fucked. So now I need to do all these different recovery things. And then now they're over good.
Were you thinking about recoverability and stuff though at 20? Like, I think that's part of the problem is we have so much information that I'll get kids who are hyper focused on reps in reserve and stuff. And man, I maybe need a couple of days to recover. I don't know that they do. It's almost like we have too much information. So for example, I don't know. I wouldn't, back in the day, nothing would ruin my workout. If I forgot my gym bag and I had to squat in my work pants, cool, whatever, I'm going to do that. If I had, work boots or whatever it was, I was going to train. The other day I had a kid come in and say he couldn't train because his pump was going to be terrible because he forgot his Cialis. And I'm like, why is that a detail that you need? You know what I mean? I think someone out there said your pump quality is going to be so much better if you use one of these vasodilators like this. And I'm like, that wouldn't have stopped me from training back then.
I didn't start worrying about recovery per se until the back end of my career, and that would have been West Side, and that's so the days were brutal, right? So and that only came from the form of if max effort lower body was Monday and Tuesday, I woke up and felt like I got hit by a fucking truck. Then I had to get ready for Wednesday. So either I had to make a decision. Do I just fucking rest or do I need some movement, to loosen the shit up to be able to get ready for Wednesday? And then different protocols I would kind of throw in as the meet came closer because that didn't become the option anymore.
Well, even the fact that you went straight to rest and not, I need to get in the sauna, I need a cold plunge, I need to fast, and all of these other hyper fixated focuses now that kids want to do. I would trade restful sleep for all of that. Of course, we do the sauna and the and the fact we do all that stuff now. But that's because I've got all my big picture items covered. So I've got restful sleep already. I've got the movement already. I've done the flexibility. I'm getting some sunlight. I'm hydrating adequately. Until you've mastered those big picture items, I don't think that people should even worry about some of that minutia.
No, I think they're missing the fucking picture 100%. Because all those things they'll call them restoration methods. Within that name is rest.
Absolutely.
So you're doing these restoration methods for what reason? Well, so I can rest.
Sure.
So you can what?
Right.
Rest.
Right.
So why not just rest?
Right.
Then if that doesn't work,
Sure.
then add those in. It's so fucked up if you think about
crazy,
it.
man. It's crazy. Well, and so have you seen, there's a documentary out with LeBron. It's The Starting Five. And so they follow him for like half a season or something like that. And some of the stuff that he's doing with his home care, with his massage therapist stuff. The coolest thing that I thought that he does, which to me is a testament to how long he's been able to perform this level, is he naps every single day. No excuses. Like 2 hours too. That says a lot about recoverability to me. Anytime I have an opportunity to interact with an outlier, I ask them a ton of questions. So for example, I went to that north of the border battle in Eaton, Ohio, probably last fall. I think that's where Tyler set his world record single ply squat. And there was a guy there, and he comes up, and he's an old man, and he squats like 285. I'm guessing he's probably like 70. And I'm like, yeah, clap. Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, that's cool. He's almost 300 pounds. Next time he comes up, they're like, hey, let's hear it for old man Schmitty. He's squatting 300 pounds a day. It's his birthday. He's 91. That changed everything. This guy's 91 years old. He's still squatting. I gotta go talk to this guy afterwards. So anyone who drives themselves in my office that's over 85, anyone that's performing athletic feats at 90, I want to try to make some time for them to figure out, what are these folks doing? And the thing that I have noticed the most, where I live, it's not eating prepped meals and doing CrossFit or powerlifting. It's chasing down cows, climbing on top of wells, cutting hay. They're eating real food and they're moving. So where I live, they're farmers. And so those folks are actually in pretty good shape. They don't go to a gym for the longevity. They don't have to. In fact, going to a gym and picking things up and putting them down for no reason for a general population, someone who's not competitive, that's very unnatural. We've never really had to do that. But when people are at work seated for 10 hours a day, to me, it makes sense to block off an hour, 30 minutes of your time, most days of the week, to move with the same kind of intent, essentially. Yeah. So just, I don't know, use your body. Every modality we do right now is introducing your body to some stressors under circumstances you can tolerate. So sauna, to me, it's normal to get hot. For me, it's normal to get cold. Ice plunge. For me, it's normal to get hungry. That's fasting. And so all of these modalities we do that make us live longer now are essentially is just exposing yourself to a stressor under your circumstances. I think it's normal to use all those body systems. Our bodies are set up with so many different tools that I think we're underutilizing them. Maybe survival has gotten a little too easy, which sounds crazy. So we're not able to use those body systems. No one knows what hunger feels like now. I don't know. Getting back to the big picture items, I think it would be really valuable for a lot of folks. Yeah.
We live in some crazy times right now where there's not a day that I don't go on the internet and I see some BS crap about this research study or this research study. This isn't new. I've been in this industry for 4 decades. One thing that's helped me is 8 years ago, the Mass Research Review started and became a godsend. The Mass Research team are professional researchers that are also meatheads. So they've done this great job of being able to take all these topics and put them into this research review that I get every month. I'm excited to partner with them. I spoke with Eric Helms about this on the podcast. It's simple, it's easy. They're offering a 20% discount to all podcast listeners. The code is elitefts20. When you join, you get the research review, which is going to be sent to you every single month. That has 7 to 9 articles in there. The archive, which is 1,500 articles, thousands of videos. Just head over to massresearchreview.com and use the code elitefts20. The link will be in the description. I'm going to circle back to the modalities, but I want to stay on this LeBron thing.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
Because things like this crack me up. Because during that, and I don't remember the documentary that well, but I think it was in season, right? So they're playing I think 4, something like that. They're playing 4 games a week or something like that. Which what's a game? An hour?
Hour and a half.
Right. So between warm-ups for the game and the game, you're looking at 8. Let's just round up. Let's say 10 hours. Okay. And then then he's still practicing and doing drills, right? So let's
weight training.
Be general and just say takes us up to 20 hours per week.
Yeah.
He did a lot. So we'll say 25 to 30 hours a week. He's physically active, right? Yeah. Which would call for a lot of those restoration methods. Where this becomes interesting to me is you take the physique athlete or the bodybuilder or the strength athlete that's training maybe 6 hours a week, not a day.
Right, exactly. Right? Yeah.
Thinks they need all those recovery modalities that he's using. It's like, dude, you're training 6 fucking hours a week.
Right.
If anything, you're out of shape compared,
sure,
to these other athletes. You don't need these modalities. Yeah. You need fucking better conditioning.
I'm with you, man.
Right. The reason you're not recovering is because your conditioning or work capacity sucks.
Exactly. Yep.
So you need to bring that up with kind of like more light work.
Sure.
But with the recovery modalities, because now we're kind of getting into the chiropractic side, is when I would be in those phases towards the later end, peaking for a meet, and when shit starts to fall apart, because it does, right?
That's your whole sport.
It's the way it is. I was working with Dr. Mel Siff at the time. He wrote Super Training, and he knew a lot about all these different modalities. So we in the off season, we would experiment with hot, cold contrast. If it was showers, I worked as a trainer in a health club. So I had a hot tub, I had dry sauna, wet sauna, cold showers. Then there was a cold tub. It wasn't like the cold tubs.
Of course, right.
So I had all these different modalities and a massage therapist as well. So you put all those in there, and then we could contrast and do all this. So we would, in the off season, we'd fuck around with different things to see what impact it had. If it had a good impact, we would store it and then throw it in during that meet prep when I actually needed that. And one of the things I remember him saying that really stuck, and I'm wondering your thoughts on this, was if you use, because I'm like, this works. We're staying with this. So he's like, no, you will adapt to it.
Absolutely.
The same way you will training, and then you're going to get fucked because what you really need, when you really need it, is going to be during this phase.
Sure.
But we don't know if anything you introduce new during that phase is going to work.
Sure.
And I never thought of, I'm going to adapt to this recovery modality.
Right.
And he expanded and said that a lot of people will just add another one on top, add another one on top, and then they'll have 8 different recovery modalities through a week where they really don't need 7 of them because they just need to cycle them out through.
Yeah, I agree.
Have you seen that?
No, I totally agree. So you could probably cycle them like you would with a training split or like you would with a supplement. Our bodies will adapt. That's just kind of part of it. That's what they do. They're really good at it. In fact, the more I learn about the human body, the more I recognize it's amazing we're all here just walking around. There are so many things that can go wrong. There are so many tools there that are unused. And we're all here just chilling. It's crazy to me. That's especially the more I learn about the brain, the more I recognize that we don't know a ton about it, man. It's supremely complicated piece of machinery. But I think, no, I totally agree. As far as cycling through your modalities, I think your body will adapt and using them when they're appropriate to use them. So let's say, for example, we're coming up on our peak week with a bodybuilder. They're getting a ton of steps in. Calories are low. They're freaking out because their legs are still soft. Oh, I'm freaking out. My legs are so soft. I'm not going to make it. Sometimes their legs are so soft because they're inflamed. They've been overtraining. They've been too many steps in. You have them take a couple of days off, do an ice bath or two for 2 or 3 days. Maybe, some temperature contrast there for a couple of days, and things harden up. Like, oh my gosh, I thought my legs were fat. No, they were just super inflamed. So picking out the right time to use those modalities, I think, is important too. But that also is part of the craft of it. Like, when is the right time to use it? And so from person to person, you get good at picking up on that. I'm sure you can do the same kind of thing when you see lifters here that, I don't know, you pick up on some things they're doing that they don't even recognize they're doing. So I think part of it is just getting reps, seeing athletes, seeing bodies, just like any other skill. The more reps you get, the better you get at it.
So with all the different modalities that are going around from the treatment side, if you were to create like a hierarchy,
I knew this was coming.
Which are the ones that you're going to give the eye rolls to first?
So in theory, there's some out there. I'm like, I get what you're saying, but I have no use for it. Like cupping. That's a really popular one. Essentially, they're just bringing blood flow to the area of tissue damage. Ideally, I will use dry needling for that same type of deal.
Is it though?
It's similar. It's close.
No, you're saying, is the cupping actually doing what they say? Because every time I look into shit like this,
well, in theory, I see what they're trying to do. I don't know that I've seen measurable changes in the office. So I always go back to what's actually walking into the door. What am I seeing on the ground? So I had this really great professor who would teach you this is what's going to be on your exam. This is what's going to be on your boards. This is what's going to walk into your clinic. And that we call those clinical pearls. I try to find those clinical pearls every day in my patterns I'm looking for. And so that's one of those situations where, I don't know, you get better at picking up on those clinical pearls, I think. I don't know, go back to modalities there. Hierarchy.
Well, let's stay with the cupping thing, because that's an
Sure.
interesting one. Because what 2 Olympics ago, whatever it was 1 or 2 Olympics ago. Remember, everybody had them, right? So if it was so fucking good and it worked so well, how come nobody's doing it now?
And so you see those fads with everything.
Yeah, but how's the fad originate? It originates because the company that does the cupping
Sure.
gets a hold of the athlete and sponsors.
And then a guy like you has cups here on his table, and you mention it.
Yeah,
You're getting paid.
Yeah.
Same thing with like we have rock tape and kinesio tape, and if you look back 2 Olympics ago, everybody had that. So I was going through school, I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta have this, man. All the athletes need this, and it's one of those things I rarely use. It's more of a tool.
You know what's fucked up? If you think this just kind of hit me, this is so fucked up. I don't even believe I'm going to say this. Right? They'll blame a lot of trainers and so forth on big pharma's influence. Trainers will blame doctors on big pharma's influence on the doctors.
Sure.
And it's like, no, wait a minute. Like the big tape was the big influence on. It's the same fucking thing.
Yeah, same thing's happening for sure.
Anyhow, keep going. But it's like, oh shit, it's the same thing. It's like they're being paid by this company to be able to do this, which means.
Again, I think that's where social media has become a slippery slope. So you get a guy with a lot of notoriety, it's easier to move stuff like that.
No, but it comes back to if you're the practitioner, and then this is the trending thing.
Oh, sure.
Right? It's going to come back to you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right?
So I think it's important to continue to pursue new modalities to see how things are changing. In fact, I love when I get an intern. They're finishing up school and they come in for an externship or something like that. Because I want to know, what are you guys learning now? How can I? Because we need so many continuing education credit hours per year that I try to do them in a meaningful way. A lot of my peers will just go to a $400 dinner and get it over with. You know what I mean? I would rather get tools I'm going to use. And so we always try to pursue new modalities like that. So the big one we've been doing a ton of recently has been the dry needling. And that's something that we've changed how we treat people. But there's been some I've done over the years that I don't really even use anymore. Things change.
With the interns, because you mentioned that you were interning for a lot of different places when you were younger, and in the strength and conditioning space, this has changed substantially to where that's kind of was your way in.
Oh yeah,
right. To where now, if one of my friends that runs one of these places wants an intern, they can't get the intern unless they have to pay the intern.
That's crazy.
And then they don't want to pay the intern. Because why would I pay the intern to teach them what I know when that's kind of the university's job? Yep. And just for a little bit more, I can hire somebody that already knows. Yeah. Are you seeing that in your space?
Not really. Most of the interns we get are either like grant funded, because we live in a pretty economically challenged area. And so Athens is a little unique in that way. So a lot of our interns we get through grant funding. But I just encourage kids to go out there and meet a practitioner who's doing what they want to do. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in chiropractic, it could be in anything. So like back when I did my strength and conditioning internship, I did with Sonny Sano with the football team. And the first 2 months, he didn't speak to me. You know what I mean? He's just an old school, intense, like militant type strength coach where, he wants everyone to move in unison, that kind of deal. And if you're late, he's going to punish you for the whole practice, that kind of deal. But I just sat back and observed and kept quiet and brought my paperwork to him when I was supposed to, and just observed the environment to figure out if it's something I wanted to be at all. I just don't think enough kids are doing that.
I think there's a couple things that are going on. Because I don't know any, I'm trying to think if I do know of anybody that would fit this, but I don't know of any business owner or entrepreneur that wouldn't take, there's a caveat, wouldn't take interns. Yeah. If they wanted to learn and had passion about the subject, as long as they have base knowledge, that they're not wasting their entire day teaching them the basic stuff. Yeah. They would take them left and right. So where the problem comes in is when they expect to be paid $70,000 a year.
That, and it takes time out of your day to deal with them. You know what I mean? Yes. So it's kind of a pain in the ass to do them all together. You know what I mean? In fact, most times I want to say no. You know what I mean? But I also remember how important it was for me, and in high school, what that meant to me, and the folks who gave me time. And so I try to do a fair amount of that, but it's kind of a pain in the butt, man. As someone who's running the business, you know what I mean?
Well, there's documentation too.
Documentation, and then here's the thing: if you own a business, like, and and someone cancels, that 30-minute window where someone canceled, you're going to try and squeeze in a bunch of other stuff to get done. You're not just chilling, you know what I mean? So you don't want to hold their hand for 30 minutes while you wait for the next patient to come in. You wanted to knock out the, the list of emails you got to get to, or, you got to call the sales tax office or whatever it is. It's a hindrance, you know what I mean?
I want to take a second to throw a quick shout out to my friends over at Massonomics. They have some of the greatest t-shirts. Their memes are incredible. Their YouTube gym tours are great. These drink spotter things, I got about 7 of them out here. Snap them on power racks, put smelling salts in it, drinks. I think they hold up to 10 pounds, or they have different sizes of these. These are great. They made coasters out of stall mats, which is amazing. But what I really wanted to let you know is to go check out gymradar.com. They launched a website that's going to help people find home gyms that they can train at, and to be able to put your own home gym on there and not only be able to find where it is, but see what they actually have. And it's also great for product reviews because people are putting the products that they have in this Gym Radar. Just go check it out. It's great. So it's www.gymradar.com. And also check out Massonomics. Check out their website. Check out their Instagram. The memes are great. And check out their YouTube. No, I know it is. Yeah. It is, because it's, while I was a trainer, there were people that I had the interns underneath, and it was a pain in the ass.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
Yeah,
because
but it's the right thing to do.
And I'm going way back there. The paperwork was fucking insane too.
Yeah.
It's like, just somebody else do this. I got people to train, man.
Right.
This is hurting my income because if I'm not training somebody, I'm not making as much per that hour than if I'm just here, and like you said, I got all this other shit that I don't want people to cancel, but I kind of need some to be able to get this other shit done. So I'm not here all fucking day.
Right. Yeah.
With the, so the interns, I wanted to circle back to the modality thing, and with, they trend through. So since you've been in it, what are some of the things that are always there?
Diversified adjustments. So chiropractors have always used their hands. And so we've kind of joked that with the,
how does the drop table work in all this? I got a follow-up question for this.
I use that too. Essentially, it's a high velocity, low amplitude adjustment. The table drops quickly, stops quickly. And so you still get the same kind of adjustment you would get from a diversified hands-on adjustment.
All right. So if I'm the patient, right, because I've had this happen before, and I can tell, right, usually the audible, like I can tell if it was adjusted or not.
Yeah.
And I had this one prominent, in Columbus that used the drop table, and it fucking never, and then he would argue with me. Like, well, it did, but you don't know because the table. I'm like, how about you just not use the fucking table?
So that's a tool that I prefer hands-on adjustments. Yeah. I'm old school in that manner. Not everyone gets adjusted though. So if I do an assessment, I find that it's mostly muscular in origin, they might get only soft tissue modalities that day. I don't think everyone should get what we call the flying 7. So a lumbar both directions, 3 up the mid back, and neck both directions. A lot of chiropractors will do that because they're knocking out the problems, and probably 70% of the problems most times. We're really problem specific at our clinic. And so there are people who come in for just a shoulder or just an ankle. There are very few people who get full spine adjusting at my place. But I still prefer the hands-on adjustment to old school. It feels good.
All right. So with, I'm trying to think of some of the chiropractor shit. What role does the imaging play in what you do?
Most of our patients at our clinic currently don't get imaged. There, of course, if there's any trauma there, there are certain scenarios where I would send them out immediately. Now there are so many imaging clinics around everywhere that I don't do it in-house. I don't really want the liability of doing it in-house. So here's the thing that I learned pretty early is, let's say you've got a neck issue and we shoot an x-ray of your cervical spine. We used to do this in my last office because it's a good opportunity to make money too. So if anyone's got pain, I can do this. And so back when I was in the insurance system, it was an easy thing to do. And you always find weird stuff. People have missing parts, extra parts, but a lot of times it doesn't mean anything. For most of our problems, it wouldn't change the treatment for most problems. So let's say, for example, you come in with neck pain and I shoot an x-ray of your neck, but I collimate a little low and I shoot the apices of the lungs, the top of the lungs. And I see the thing I'm looking for on your neck. Oh, there we go. I got a little osteophyte hanging off C5. That's probably your problem there. That's why you're getting the radiculopathy. That's probably what it is. Well, let's say you also have a cancer lesion at the top of the apice of your lungs there too that I didn't see because I'm not looking for that. I'm also responsible for that lesion. So I can get in trouble for not seeing that. The reason why I send everything out now is I look at imaging every day. I look at imaging all day. So I want somebody who's looking at imaging all day to give me their opinion too. So when someone brings back their report, I look at the imaging myself, put together my opinion, and then I pull up the report to see, did I miss anything? It's nice having an extra set of eyes who also will take on some of that liability with you, just in case something like that would happen. Does that being a mom and pop shop, that's tough, but like it's such a litigious society. That's things I got to think about.
Yeah. Well, that was the question that I always had when I would go through that is, how's this going to change what you're going to do?
In most cases, it doesn't.
Well, that would be the answer. I'm like, well, just fucking do what you got to do so I can get back to the gym and do what
With all the trauma you've had, though, I would want imaging on you.
Well, yeah, well, I have it. You know, I have it. You know, it's all there. But the other thing that I've seen is the scoliosis thing, right? Which is everybody, and it's I don't want to say traumatized. That's probably too big of a word. There's some friends of mine that have had that, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, this is what, you know, it's like the worst. It's the worst that, you know, my chiropractor said this is the worst they've ever seen. I'm like, first off, no, it's not.
Right.
And you've had it your whole fucking life.
Right. Exactly.
But it seems to be this catch, you know.
And so that's another one of those situations where there are probably sensationalizing things can make it a little easier to get you back in the office. I would rather see you 2 or 3 times, get you better quickly, and bring you back a new problem. Go tell your grandma about it. Bring her back in. Go jump into some co-ed basketball league and bring me a rolled ankle. If I can get you better quickly, especially in a small town, that carries weight. Where I live at, people talk about you. You know what I mean? And so if you're doing good work, people will tell other people. And to me, that's been the best marketing tool we've ever had. Better than any other marketing dollar I can spend. And so I treat my peers. I treat people I went to high school with, and their kids. And so wanting to get people better quickly has been, I don't know, kind of my driving force, where other chiropractors are like, oh, how many follow-ups do you get a week? I'm like, a fraction.
Well, I think it's a weird thing just from what I've seen is the ones that have more than one modality, right, have multiple modalities, and the ones that are out of the system, right? Because I believe, you know, I don't know, you've gone through the school for it. I believe they teach you in school, you know, how to go about that insurance billing phase.
Not really.
Well, they don't.
So that's the part that you got to kind of learn on your own. So we have like a billing class, but from state to state, it's very different. From insurance company to insurance company, it's very different. In fact, my first 4 years in practice, my whole town, the only industry there is university. And so everyone there is Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield. And so my market is saturated with male chiropractors. And so I couldn't get a network, which meant I couldn't take their insurance, which means I wasn't making any money. And so because it was a closed network, it was kind of miserable there in the beginning. And so what we ended up doing is my wife came on with me, and we tried to figure out how we were going to get a network. They said, we're not going to make any money. So what she ended up doing is we did some research and found that there were no female chiropractors within that 30-mile radius. 30-mile in a rural area is far as shit. You know what I mean? That's a big deal here. So we said, hey, there's no female chiropractors, so we're going to credential our clinic here because there's people who can only see a female based on, you know, religious reasons or whatever. And that's how we were able to finally get in network. And once we did, I was like, oh God, this is miserable. The rules are always changing. They never benefit you. They never benefit me. They're always trying to take something away from the patient. It's gotten more and more restricted to the work you're able to do. And so once we switched to self-pay, I was afraid we would lose people. We haven't lost anybody. People are so like, wait. So no mystery bills? Okay, wait, so you can do the exam today and the treatment? Wait, okay, so I've got 2 problems. Can you do 2 problems today? Like, yeah, man, we can do multiple regions. For a new patient, I block off 90 minutes. We take a lot of time to find the problem. That's probably one of the other things that we do different than other folks is we take a really long time doing a history. A lot of times the chiropractor's the last stop because they've already tried this, they've tried that, they've tried this, they've tried that. I couldn't figure this out. You're the last guy. And so with a lot of those difficult problems, I've found the patient already knows the answer. It's up to me to put together the right series of questions to figure out what that is. They're not able to always feel what they're feeling and then create patterns with that. So usually the first day, I'm working on symptoms. I want to make you feel better as quickly as possible. And I'm going to give you some home care probably. And then as those symptoms start to creep back in, what are you doing? So a lot of times there are things in our lives that we do that contribute to the pain. So let's say, for example, you started a new job, you got a new desk, it's a little too high, you're reaching for your keyboard. That's an easy problem to fix. You know, you're going to notice, oh my gosh, yeah, I have been shrugging. I think my desk is a little too high. Cool, we can fix that. But if you've got low back pain because you're helping granny get into bed every night, we can't. You got to be able to do that. And so I'll teach people how to stretch and strengthen around those problems. But it just everyone's just so different in what they need. I don't think you can treat everybody with the flying 7 and get any kind of benefits there.
How many times does it come down to how they move on a daily basis?
Tons. Well, that, and then a lot of folks who aren't athletic just exist in this vessel. And they don't think about, like, a problem happens to you. You think, okay, well, let's see, I shoulder press on Thursday. That's maybe why my shoulder's a little tight there. Oh, I also slept on my side. That was kind of weird. They don't think about that. I'll say, where does it hurt? My back. Upper, lower, right, left? Oh, kind of lower. Is it more on the right or more on the left? I don't know. Like, what makes it worse? Everything hurts. Those are patients that are really hard to work on. If you get an athlete, and then usually military folks or people who do like yoga or meditate, they're usually a little bit more body aware. They'll say, okay, on Thursdays I do this, it's worse. On Fridays it feels pretty good. I do this, and this. I do this movement, it's terrible. I do this one, it feels so much better. This is a stretch I've been doing. I can't figure this out. And so those people are much easier to work on because they've thought about their symptoms. I don't care if they come in with a book of Google Docs of 18 diseases they think they've got. At least they've thought about the symptoms. And so those people are just generally easier to work on.
I built Elite FTS in 1998, 27 years ago, with the aim to help educate as many people as I could in strength and conditioning. And the way to do that was to keep all the content complementary. The way that we've been able to do that since day one is by providing the best products possible to help your training program. If you can put the item in a gym bag or load plates on it, we have it, and it will work. Everything from SS yoke bars to American press bars, bands. We also have a strength equipment specialist staff that helps outfit home gyms, sport training centers, colleges that have over 3 decades of experience and also have spent a lot of time working as coaches so they understand the flow of the weight room and how things actually get done. If you're serious about your training and you want to up your game and support the podcast and all the content that we provide, head over to elitefts.com and use the code TABLETALK at checkout to receive 10% off your orders. With the one observation I'll tell people that throw their back out with the lifter. So now if we're getting into the meatheads, right,
yeah, sure, is
and it kind of goes back to when Stu McGill was working with Brian Carroll, and some of the things that came out of that was when that would happen to me, and it was never in the gym. Like it's like the
never is. It's never is. Exactly.
Like some
never
stupid
is.
shit. And but what I'll tell people is when that happens, how do you move? Mm-hmm. Like when it's flared up like that, how do you get out of bed?
Sure.
How do you stand up from a chair?
Right.
Like that's probably how do you get out of your car?
Right.
That's probably how you should do it.
Sure.
All the time. Because if you look, if my back's jacked the fuck up, I'm not like doing this, I'm like putting my hand and I'm like standing up properly. That way I'm not creating the issue. Because I think this with a lot of the lifters, just the way they sleep, the way they move, the way they fucking sit.
Absolutely.
All that is creating the environment for them to say, man, I was doing these stiff legs and fucked my back up. Mm-hmm. It's like, I think all this other shit created the environment. Would that be the case?
100%. So all those movement patterns lend to what's going on in your life, like in real time. Let's see here. I think of a good example here, but I don't know. I can't think of a good one right now.
As far as movement?
Yeah, or a movement that people would do that would put themselves in a situation where they could get hurt in the gym.
Fucking sleeping on their stomach if they're 300 pounds.
That's a huge one. Okay, so sleep posture is one we do talk about a ton.
Hopefully they end if they're on a CPAP, that would be a great thing because then they'll have to be on their back.
Yeah,
right?
you're never elite till you need CPAP.
Yeah.
But ideally, all those guys that sleep on their back. Ideally, they probably, you break in shoes more than small folks do. You break in beds more than small folks do. So I don't think people consider their bed as much as they should. Mm-hmm. And generally, it's a hard sell, but generally firmer is better for most people, especially big guys. Over time, bed starts to sag, and I think that's a problem we see a ton. So when I'm looking at those temporal patterns, I'll say, hey, is your pain worse in the morning? Yeah, always worse in the morning. I'll say, have you done any travel recently? Yeah, my wife and I went to Vegas last week. I said, well, how'd you sleep there? Actually, pretty good. I said, was that bed firm? Oh yeah, it was super stiff, man. It was terrible. I said, well, how'd your back feel? Oh, well, back felt pretty good. And so I don't think people are really looking at those patterns at all, and how their body's feeling in those times. Yeah, just keep looking for patterns, time patterns, anything, movement patterns, any postures that make it worse. When it feels bad, don't just have a bad day. What was different? Oh, you know what? I didn't wear my favorite shoes to work. The shoes I always wear to work, that I put on these boots and now, man, my back's killing me. That's a new variable. I had a lady come in. This is another thing we see a ton too. I think the cool thing about chiropractic, there's lots of cool things, but we touch our patients. You can learn a lot by touching the patient. One is you get the right location. So can you show me the pain? Can you point to it? Can I touch it? Two, you get to feel texture, tone, temperature, some information there that you need to get. In fact, I'll tell my MD buddies, hey man, you should be touching the patient. There's something powerful there with touch, I think too, something kind of immeasurable there, but also just getting the right location. So for example, I had a lady come in, hip pain. And so if you're an anatomist, hip means groin. Anyone who had a lot of anatomy, it's groin. Your physician means groin. Most general population people mean hip. They're pointing to the outside here, or they're pointing to the low back SI joint. And so this lady had come from 4 different practitioners, medical doctors, and all kinds of stuff. And she says hip. And I said, could you point to it? Because everyone's been looking at her groin. She's pointing to a bursa here on the side. You know what I mean? And so I'm asking her about activity. Oh yeah, you know what? I started sprint biking recently. And I'm like, okay, what's this? Probably a friction thing, overuse type of deal. But no one even looked in the right location to get the diagnosis right initially because they didn't touch the pain. Can I see it? Can you point to it? So that's another big part, is taking a good history, is make sure you got the right location.
So with, cause you mentioned shoes. So we'll go with, the arch supports, right? So it's, I'll give you my background, my story, then we'll kind of lead that into what other strength athletes may go through. Is I developed plantar fasciitis, which is fucking miserable. Bad. I mean, to the point where you it's worse when you get out of bed, right?
It's always,
And then I'm standing on towels. And then I'm scooching on the towels so I don't have to lift my foot up, to be able to get to the bathroom. And then now I see it as a Band-Aid. The Band-Aid was the arch support, to be able to do that. And then I don't want to say that led to the hip replacements, but it's all downstream. Like everything kind of plays into the whole thing. And many years later, somebody told me, well, your feet are not fucking strong. But I couldn't walk around barefoot, because it fucking hurt too bad. So you're living in these supports, which is like the fucking crutch.
Absolutely.
And oddly enough, and it could just be, time always plays a role. I want to put that out there.
Absolutely.
3 years, it could just be long enough that it's starting to heal. Where he told me to walk on gravel, which hurt like a bitch. Right. But it was enough to start to activate. And then to walk around the house in barefoot as much as I could, and then back in the soles, and then just go back and forth. Then flat shoes, and then never had a problem again. Right. To where it's like, motherfucker, like somebody should have told me that, 7 years ago, so I didn't have to wear.
It may have been one of those situations where they were able to make money on your orthotic.
Well, they did a lot.
Yeah. And so that's one of those delicate balances with bracing where there are times where it's warranted. But with bracing, I'll have people start with halftime wear, because even if I put braces on your teeth, in the beginning, that's going to make you sore. So if I put you in some brand new orthotics, I'm not going to have you go to competition immediately under some new orthotics you've never worn before. I want you to practice for like weeks in this. If you're already competing at a high level, broke down, we're going to see the competition broke down. You already know how to do that. I'm not going to start changing new variables leading up to a contest. So with bracing, what I'll have folks do is start with halftime wear. And then we're going to also add some kind of strengthening component to that. A lot of it's more mobility work. So especially with plantar fasciitis, what we find is the posterior chain, so hamstring, calves, Achilles, will start to get tighter. That's moving kind of down the chain toward your feet. That becomes the plantar fascia across the vomit. So a lot of times I'll work on hamstrings and calves in the beginning there. That'll free up some motion for folks. Then we'll also, a lot of times we'll do some like calf raises type motions. So we'll even make sure we're doing a really good job with the eccentric. And then we're even maybe do some tibialis anterior work. But it kind of depends on where they're at in the progression of their plantar fasciitis. So that's a common one.
No, it is. It's in the cortisone did work.
Oh yeah.
That's a fun one when you're sitting there and they pull out this and jam it right in your fucking heel. But when it didn't work, because there's times it doesn't work either. And I'm one of these guys that if I get any cortisone, which I never like to get anyhow.
Yeah, ideally.
The hiccups. I'd have hiccups for 3 fucking days.
Okay.
It's terrible.
Okay.
my wife, this brings back so many memories because anybody doesn't like hiccups, right?
Yeah, of course, right.
I fucking hate it. And like 8 hours are going by and I'm out in the backyard because if you drink water, like if you slam water, right?
Yeah.
And like, it's not working. Like the peanut butter, like all the other shit's not working.
Yeah.
So I come up with this idea. I'm going to take the fucking garden hose and I'm going to stick it in my throat. Right. And just blast it all on because you can't chug water faster than, like a permanent beer bong. Right. And my wife comes out like, what the fuck are you doing?
Right,
it was terrible. It still didn't fucking go away. But anyhow, that's the crazy shit. Because of this plantar fasciitis. But where I wanted to circle back to with all that is, actually just stay on that. I think you kind of, you put a good cap on it, that it's the arches they're temporary.
Yeah.
It's to get you out of that pain, to be able to strengthen the foot.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because that's what it is. Because either you're going to fix it by strengthening the foot or you're going to fix it because they're going to go in and do surgery and cut the fascia.
Yep. Yep.
You have to,
and it still might thinking again. You know what I mean? So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it still might thinking. So a lot of times I'm in the hills, so I do a lot of like hillbillies and hillbilly sports, and so I do a lot of motocross stuff, a lot of cross country stuff, so like a lot of dirt bike stuff. A lot of guys are worried about something called arm pump, and so the arms start to get really tight, and they're really concerned about training arms. But it's an anxiety thing. I think they get really worked up about a big race and they grip too tight. And so over time, the fascia in their forearms will get really, really tight. It becomes like a compartment syndrome, like you would with like shin splints. Mm-hmm. And I've seen guys go in and have that fascia opened up and then it can retighten again too. So I've seen guys do it more than once. Same thing with like a Dupuytren's contracture. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you've seen that too. You can have that tendon released, but eventually it may creep back in. So I mean, you may have to do it more than once.
That sucks.
That would suck.
So the option to strengthen it and to fix it,
I would just strengthen it.
Would be better.
It's a longer road, but yeah.
You mentioned the mouth brace, and so I'm going to go back through and another one that took me too long to be able to learn. I ended up breaking 4 teeth just from straining and stuff like that, and then developed the neck pain goes up into your fucking head and all this. And so we're trying to treat this in every way possible until my dentist made mouthpiece to be able to put in. Yeah. So I assume that your stance on the mouthpiece, actually explain to people why, if they're lifting heavy, right? Sets of 10, maybe not. So,
sure.
But the heavier shit for sure, why they should consider a mouthpiece.
So the muscles of mastication is not just the masseter. So you'll get temporalis, you'll get some muscles there at the base of your skull, your suboccipitals. Those really engage during a max effort, especially if you got a bar on your back or maybe even bench pressing. You're pressing back there. The tension you develop over time, it can kind of accumulate, and you'll get the kind of tension headaches that wrap around your head and go behind your eyes. And so people are surprised when I touch the base of their skull. Does this radiate? Does this make your headache feel the same way? Oh my gosh, yeah, there it is. That tension over time can kind of just build up, and then you get these tension headaches that come and go based on what you're doing. But tooth integrity is probably the thing I'd be most concerned with. If you're bearing down to the point where you're getting microfractures there, it's worth worried about to me. I don't personally wear a mouth guard. I probably should. I've cracked 2 teeth also, but that's not something I do too.
The problem that I had trying before was they were like football mouth guards. Right? And I couldn't fucking breathe.
Yeah.
Like you're trying to pull air and this other kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But then when it was made for me,
that's different.
Right? It sits and the newer ones today sit a little bit different.
Yeah, I've seen it.
So you can talk and so forth.
Sure.
But it was breaking the teeth. This is going to sound bad. It's going to sound so meatheadish. Breaking the teeth, I didn't give a fuck about. Yeah. Whatever. But the fucking the headache, the neck pain, man. Yeah. It was trap, like the neck and trap pain that would go up and to like run behind your fucking eye. And the whole time I'm like, it's my subscap. It's always not what it is.
Right.
And after like a month of that, it was like, oh my God. Yeah. Like this went away.
We get a lot of folks who come in from dentist referrals who have Team J issues. Usually Team J is pretty easy to work on because it's a simple hinge joint. There's a series of muscles that hold it all together there. And so if things are tracking funky, you can identify that muscle, show people how to stretch it in most cases. We also do some dry needling at the master there. It's pretty easy to do. essentially what you're doing there is you're drawing an inflammation there to correct tissue damage that you made. While it's the lesions there, it's fixing tissue damage that I made, essentially. But that's when we use a ton in the jaw. And that should show people some gentle stretching you can do there. That makes a big difference also for that.
So with your cousin being an all-time world record holder in the squat, I think he was on episode 300. So you've seen him compete. You've gone to these meets. What do you see in these lifters and how they train that just make you think, what the fuck?
Oh my gosh, there's so many things. So the biggest thing that drives me crazy with Tyler is his method. I've been to like every meet with him, almost every meet. And even this most recent one, I'm backstage, I'm more nervous than he is. And with every sport I've ever had, I've had a routine. So if it was, track, I'm lined up in my blocks the exact same way every time. I'm putting my shoes on the exact same way. I've got a method. He'll be sitting there, hey, anybody see my wraps? Oh, yeah, you go wrap this one up and give it to that guy. He can wrap up the other one. I'm like, bro, what? Hold on, let the same person do it. Do you even know that guy? Nah, it doesn't matter. He can do it fine. Does I have a screwdriver in my bag? I'm like, Tyler, you have 2 minutes before you get on the platform. Yeah, grab that. I think I have a screwdriver. Somebody grab that screwdriver. And he's like doing all this other stuff. And so that drives me absolutely nuts. But for him, I think that is his process. I think for him to keep his mind off of it. But the coolest thing is lifter to the platform, you can see it in his face. He's gone. I'm like, he looks through you. It's kind of scary, to be honest with you, man. Where he can go from like laughing and joking to Tyler Butcher to the platform, boom, he's a different person. I think there's something special in that too. Being able to get that flow state on a whim like that, that's probably a testament to why he's been so successful. He can draw on that in practice. He can draw on that in the meet. You know what I mean? He knows how to get to that quickly. Just read a book, The Rise of Superman. It's about finding your flow state, and it's essentially about extreme athletes and why it's easier for them to get to the flow state because it is dangerous. So if you're dropping in on a 100-foot wave as a surfer or whatever, you gotta act, not react, and you gotta trust your training. It's really easy to find your flow state if you might die if you don't. You know what I mean? So with those guys, I think it's kind of the premise of the book. I think he might fit into that category. The thing that he said to you, I don't even know if you picked up on the episode, is you guys were talking about pain because your whole sport is managing injuries. Like, it doesn't matter if it's the first day of prep or meet day, there's injuries. He said, well, yeah, you could always just turn the pain off. And for him, that's an option. You know what I mean? Have you ever read Jose Silva's Mind Control? It's written in the 70s, has old school. Essentially, the premise of the book is in this environment here, we're experiencing the same environment. The temperature, the photons of light, the photons of light. The way we perceive it might be different because our brain filters that information. And so it's up for you, your mind, to say, hey, this is too bright or it's too dim. In that book, they teach you, but they kind of show you how to harvest some of that energy in a way that you can change your reality. And I feel like that's kind of a technique that Tyler uses, maybe without even knowing that he's using it. It's really impressive. We're on the opposite in that spectrum, and this might be more your method, I think. Rick Rubin's Creative Act, the producer for the Beatles, not Beatles, the Beastie Boys. He's worked with every artist on earth, a super, super talented guy. He provides them the environment to be creative. He doesn't tell them how to do it. So when you see someone do something great, you might not even know what you're looking for. You're like, in the moment, like, I know what that is. That's going to be great. This guy's got what it takes. That seems like more of your kind of approach here, where you just provide the environment and then let people do their great things, which is kind of cool too.
Yeah. Well, it kind of both plays into it, because when you're dealing with the psychological, because I've always, ever since I started doing seminars, I said all weak points are physical, mental, or physical, mental, or technical.
Right.
And there's big, deep holes you can go down with each one of those.
Yes.
And in the psychological side, there's that you can have that flow state and visualization and all the other kind of stuff, but and everybody's going to be unique and a little bit different on how they do all that. But when I step out of that, it's like, okay, they need to learn how to compartmentalize. Sure. Which we're being told is a bad thing. Okay. Like, no, it's not.
Right.
You need to shut all this other shit out.
Right.
so you can focus on this.
Yeah.
Now, the best way to compartmentalize, if you step one brick, further
Sure.
to the left of that, is how organized can you keep all the other aspects of your life that don't make it destructive?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. So some people, making their bed and all this other stuff is a big deal. Other people, it just needs whatever it needs to be, it needs to be to where you're at ease.
Sure.
So you're not thinking about, fuck, I didn't make my bed. Right. If you don't give a fuck or whatever it is, you have to be able to make it easier for you to be able to compartmentalize. Sure. Then when you compartmentalize, the wraps don't matter. None of the shit matters, man. What matters is he can shut that off, then hyper focus just on what that is.
I agree.
Right. It's all this matters more than the training and all the other kind of shit, is to be able to have that focus in there, but then to be able to get out of it as quick as they can.
Sure.
Right. So that's the trick, is you got to, because if you go in at a high level, man, cortisol, everything's going to go through the roof, man.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you may not make your deadlifts because you went too high.
Right.
So you got to figure out
optimal arousal.
Where that perfect arousal is, and only time will be able to do that. But if
reps,
I like to think of the analogy of any of the sports, equine sports, any horse sports, right?
Yeah.
The horse picks up on the rider.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Picks up on the rider's emotion. Are they stressed? Are they not stressed? And the horse is going to react based upon that. Right. Well, we don't have a horse. Right. It may be the squat.
Sure.
Whatever that is going to be based upon what this is. So the equine sports, so they have to be able to do that. Otherwise the horse is going to pick up. Like, you're faking it. Right. I know you're faking it. I'm going to throw your fucking ass off. Right. Like, you can't fake it. It's got to be real. That's the hard part, is for that to be real and not faked, and you can see it.
Well, and I still think it comes with reps and opportunities to practice your skill set. So learning what kind of athlete you are, learning what kind of learner you are, knowing what kind of cues that you need. I think that's a big part of even picking your coach, is figuring out first what kind of learner you are. So for example, like I've had coaches that were mean. I've had coaches that are nice. I know that I perform my best when my coach leads with effort. And so if my coach is trying really hard, I want to replicate that effort. And that's something, you can feel. And so from person to person, that's going to be different. In fact, that's been one of the hardest things about transitioning into more coaching and doing more personal training, is most people don't respond to the same cues that I do. You can yell at me. That's fine. Tell me what's wrong. I'll fix it. I'm okay with that. Most people don't want that. They want you to do the sandwich method and give them a little nice thing, and then tell them what's wrong and give them a little nice thing. You can just tell me what's wrong. I'm fine with that. But other folks so for example, my dad coached me like all the way through, which was awful and awesome too. And he knew that I responded to, just tell me what's wrong. So I would make a mistake, come off the court, grab your jersey and yell at you. Cool, I'll fix it. Other guys on the team can make the same mistake. They come off the floor and throw an arm around. Hey man, you gave me some good minutes and this is what I need. He was really good at figuring out from person to person what they needed. And I'm still working on that. I'm still working on that part.
I just want to take a moment to let you know about our crew. What our crew is, it allows the show to stay independent, and it's the reason why the podcast is still here now. The podcast is free to listen to, but it's not free to produce. It keeps going because of the sales through Elite FTS, our show sponsors, but more importantly, our crew members. The reason I love this is for many reasons, is it keeps the show independent. So I can pick who I want to speak to. I can pick what topics I want to speak to, and I don't have to be accountable to anybody. I just go off what the crew members want and what the audience wants, and I don't have to deal with all the other bullcrap that's associated with the podcast world. In return, what you get with the crew is ad-free episodes that are released a day ahead of time. You get access to our Discord community, which has AMAs, like 60 ebooks. We try to put a new ebook out every single month. Access to our coaching community with form checks, training Q&As. It also gives you invitations to our training retreats that are out here in the gym once or twice a year. 76% of all the people that joined in 2022 are still members now. Right now, you can either go month to month or get 2 months free with an annual plan. Just look for the link in the description, look at the QR code, or search elitefts.com crew and join today. It means a lot.
That's tough.
No, that's a weird one, because it comes down to your ability to communicate, right?
Sure.
Which one-on-one, that's one thing, but now if you have a team of people, it's a different thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you're raised in my generation,
It's different
the
now.
Gen X generation. We're like fuck around, find out. We're unsupervised feral, right? It's like I don't understand why in the fuck you can't just figure it out. It's different kind of how it all plays through, but to be able to understand, which is fucked up, right? Because my generation with the fuck around, find out and all this other stuff, they're the ones that were given out the participation awards.
Sure.
Like,
That's
so
true.
like,
Never thought about
you
that.
bitch about it, but you're the ones that were giving them out.
Maybe they recognize it wasn't good that way either.
No, I mean, it's just a constant
super compensation.
thing of, just trying to overcorrect, but you got to figure out where that, it's weird in a team dynamic, man.
It would be weird. Yeah.
It's really weird. I don't know how when I speak to the strength coaches, it's like, how do you do this, man? Like if you got 30 people, you can have 5 captains, 5 leaders, then the leaders will be able to do it, but you got to make those 5 people. You got to find those 5 people. Then you got really fucking good at doing it fast.
Yeah. Right.
Especially in your college, because the NIL, they may not be there the next year.
They're not going to be there.
No. You got to figure this shit out fast and be able to do it. And one-on-one, it's interesting with the personal training clients because they just may not fucking care. It's not their job to care because they got family, work, all the other things.
Care is, I think, the big word there. So anything that you care about, the things you give a shit about, the things you're going to get good at it. So it doesn't matter if it's powerlifting or going to the bar with your boys. If you care about going to the bar with your boys and that's the only thing you care about, you're going to get good at drinking. You're going to be the guy on vacation that people are impressed by. Like, wow, look how much that guy can drink. So I think that the biggest thing is chase something you care about. I think that's the best way to get good at something is give a shit.
All right. So that's a good one. You be in the entrepreneur space and having 4 different businesses and so forth that's easy for us to say, right? Choose your passion, all the other kind of bullshit that goes around with that. That doesn't mean it's going to be easy.
No, not at all.
Right.
No.
And I think that's where you don't always care.
Right.
Like sometimes you only care like 5%.
Yeah.
If that.
Sure.
Sometimes it's like just I want to be fucking done. Right.
Yeah.
But so it's how do you navigate that? Because there's ebbs and flows.
So with every job, there will be days where it's a job. You know what I mean? With every job. And there are times in life where it makes sense to settle for a job. Maybe because it gets you closer to home and take care of your folks, or maybe it gets you, benefits for your kids, or maybe it affords you the time and resources to do things you do really like to do. But if you're fortunate enough to work in an environment that you love, it's so much easier. So like for my dad, I don't know that he necessarily loves painting, but he was able to leave every day at 1:30 so he could go to basketball practice at 2:30. You know what I mean? And so I think that part he loved. A lot of the folks that I'm dealing with, because I'm in a college town, are young. So I'm urging these people to find something you really enjoy, because working is going to be so much easier if you like it. I've done jobs that I hated. I worked for my dad as a kid. He would send me the jobs he couldn't send anybody else to. You know what I mean? Because I didn't have a choice. So the first tool he ever got me, I was like 5th grade. And they painted some kind of like factory or something like that. And so they power washed the outside. So there's paint chips, like drops down and stuff like that. But there's paint chips. And so the shit goes everywhere. So I spent like my first 2 weeks of employment. He's like, oh man, I got you your first tool, man. I'm so excited. I have my little shirt on and stuff, my company shirt and that kind of deal. And it was a shop vac. I spent 2 weeks sucking up paint chips out of grass. You know what I mean? So that's the kind of work I started with, where I don't know. I forgot where we were going with that, to be honest with you.
No, but the work sucks, right? That kind of work sucks, right?
Right?
So
it does suck. Yeah.
where we can go with this is, let's say it's that manual fucking sucking up paint chips or whatever it is, right? And you have to do that, and then say that's that 40-hour a week job, and then you have lunch and shit like that. So you're doing that for like 30 hours a week, and then after that, everything else is all the shit that you love. Going to the gym, your family, training, all that other kind of stuff, right? So whatever that deficit is between the total numbers of hour in a week, minus the 30, I don't know, I'm not good at math. Let's say it's 100, right? Now let's say you have your own business, right? Then out of that 100, you have 10 hours, because there's the other 90 hours that are all doing that, right?
So that's the thing I see at the office when people come in and they'll say, I'm absolutely exhausted. I'm so exhausted. My work week was miserable. I said, I worked 44 hours this week. To me, all I hear is I don't have any passion for what I'm doing. I don't know how many hours I work. You keep showing up. You know what I mean? If there's stuff to do, you got to do it. Someone's got to do it. And so you're always on when it's your own. No one cares about like you do. You know what I mean? So it's either going to work because you made it work, or it's not because you didn't make it work.
Well, that's what I think some people don't get is there's a lot of times I would trade the shop vac.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
You know, for the,
for
for
sure.
the,
Oh my God. Yeah.
for the 120 hours a week.
Task. Oh my
right?
God. Yeah.
Because then I'd have all this other time that's opened up,
Sure.
you know, to be able to do all the other things that I want to be able to do.
Right.
So it's like the grass is always greener type thing.
Exactly.
Where those people that have those jobs, I think if they take time to understand that they have all this other free time, I guess is what you would call it.
Of course.
You know, to be able to do all the other things that they love, which is probably way more than the entrepreneur that they think that they want to be, has to be able to do the things that they would really want to be able to do. This is exactly outside of all the other stuff.
This is exactly what I tell my peers when they call and they'll say, hey man, I'm leaving, I'm an associate doc right now. I'm working so-and-so. I'm thinking about opening my own clinic. And I'll say, okay, let's talk about a couple things here. What time do you leave on Friday? What time you get there on Monday? Are you thinking about work at all in between? Nah, not really. Sometimes I answer some emails. And I say, so assign a price to that because there should be some value to that because you're going to lose that. And so I start to try to put things in perspective for them, but how much it really is. There's a lot of factors that you just don't consider. Even just like waking up first thing in the morning, the first thing I do is usually I pull up the schedule to kind of mentally prepare for the day. So there are certain, I don't know, patients that you may have to mentally prepare for because they're exhausting, you know what I mean? And just getting ready for it. And so like your day starts with that, you know what I mean? And if it's not your own, you don't give a shit, you just show up. Like I gotta be there at 9, I'll get there at 9:05, you know, whatever. But when it's your own, well, I gotta run the vacuum real quick. I'm not sure if the cleaning person came or whatever. Last night before we left, I don't know if we cleaned up this, I need to go check on this. And there's always stuff to do.
Well, it's the entrepreneur internet space it's amusing as fuck to me. It really is, right? Because you know it's all about pushing them to be this entrepreneur and all this stuff, and you can do this and you do this, and the whole time I'm like, okay, so you do that and you're successful, then you need to hire somebody. Right. So everything you're just saying is going to go right into the ears of the people that you're just hiring. Right. So they're going to be hearing, fuck your boss, fuck all this other shit. You need to go do it on yourself. Right. So like watch what the fuck that you say. You know, because if you're really highly successful, then the people that you need to help you to do the work are going to be hearing that same message that you're saying now.
Absolutely. I agree.
Out of ignorance because you really haven't succeeded to be able to know that you can't do this alone. Right. And that there's other vital pieces that come into all this.
Absolutely.
You know, it's just, it's amusing as fuck. I love it.
Well, like just on the same opposite side of that coin, I guess. There are times where I would definitely trade for like an office job to be done at 5 o'clock. You know what I mean? Where I'm like, man, is this worth it? I'm not making any more money than I would be doing that. Do I love this enough to keep doing like this? That basically. So no, there are definitely times where I would trade too.
Oh yeah,
for sure,
100%.
Especially having like back in the construction world, I miss having a task. It's a regular task. Like on Mondays, I'm in the kitchen. They're professionals, so like they're doing like the real chefing. I'm on the grill, man. They don't let me do much, so I'm grilling for like 4 hours. I'm doing dishes for like 4 hours, and the interns are like, "Let me jump in there and get some dishes." I would just rather have that task of 4 hours to put on your podcast or one of the other podcasts to just learn and zone out and clean dishes. It's easy. It doesn't bother me. You go do something special. Like I'm cool here. Just to have a regular task where you can see your progress. You know what I mean? All right, I've been doing this for 2 hours. I'm halfway done. I got 2 more hours. I'm gonna be out of here. You know what I mean? It feels good to have that kind of work occasionally.
Yeah. Well, the other rant I like to put on all this one is just delegate. It's like, okay, I can do that. So then now my net profit every month is now zero.
Right. Exactly.
Right. So I'm going to delegate and then, well, if you delegate, then you can use that free time for you to be able to scale the business. Like you don't think I've been fucking trying to scale the business to begin with?
Right. Exactly.
Like this is not going to help.
Right.
Like delegating out all my net income, you know, and that's that fucked up fake world.
That, and then they're probably not going to do it as well as you would have done it. And so that's that delicate balance of handing off responsibility, but also, is it going to be done the way I want it anyways? Is it faster for me to just do it? You know what I mean? And that's where I'm trying to get better about letting my professionals do their thing and trusting my professionals. So for example, like we talked about the tax thing. I trust my tax guy. I trust my finance guy. I don't know what they're doing over there. You know what I mean? I trust you to do what you would do with your money, with my money. And so when you get to that point, some things it could be easier where you just turn it over. But if it's in your space and you're seeing it, I'm pretty particular. So a lot of stuff, if I can do it, I'd rather just do it. I'd rather just do it. Every week I drag in mowers to our properties and I mow the grass because I don't want to fool with Joe Blow calling me on Thursday like, bro, it's supposed to rain. I'm not going to be here this week. And no, I'm just going to knock it out myself. It takes me 20 minutes to just do it. A lot of stuff I probably do too much, but I kind of enjoy that stuff too, man. I kind of enjoy it. And that's probably why I feel more comfortable with like commercial real estate as like an investment option. And so like, I can go to that business, I can go to that building, I can impact that. So like we do our thing that we have to do with the money market. I know you can't out earn compounding interest, compounding interest and all that. But I've always felt more comfortable investing my money in properties because I could impact that. I can never impact the money market, but I can put a business in that building. I could go there and wash the windows. I could impact that. And I've always been, I don't know if this is necessarily healthy, but so proud of my work ethic that even as a kid, I didn't like chance games. I didn't want to play, a board game with you. But if you want a foot race, there's rules. And the rules are, we have equal opportunity. And it's my work ethic and my talent versus yours. Yeah, let's race. And so I don't know if that's necessarily healthy, but even growing up, I preferred individual sports. It was cool being on a track team or a golf team. You have your buddies there, you're training with your friends, but you're out there on your own. I think it's something really cool about what you can learn about yourself, but also it all being on my back. I don't like letting people down. I don't like letting myself down. I want to turn me loose. If the rules are you and I are equal, let's go. And I've always kind of appreciated that.
Were there any topics you wanted to go over I didn't bring up?
So recently I've been playing around with keeping it simple. I was in the gym the other day. I'm looking at one of those old school like Schistler handles. It's a push down handle. It's made like in the 80s or something like that. And there's a really big, strong kid behind me. He's like, "What is that?" And I'm looking over my shoulder like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "That handle you have there." I'm like, "It's a push down. You seen one of these?" And his training partner, also giant. Bro, I've never seen that. So I've been focusing on some of the stuff that seems easy to us because we've been in this for so long that maybe isn't straightforward to everybody else. So I make a video about this stupid handle like the next day. Everybody in the gym's using it. Never seen one before. It's getting more views than anything I've ever posted. And I'm like, this is silly. But I think it's because you and I have been in the sport so long, there are things that we've forgotten about. So last time we were supposed to meet, I had a back injury. It's the first time I've ever been injured, like seriously injured ever in my entire life. Tear a hamstring, cool, I can still train shoulders and check chest. Purple pec, cool, I can still squat. I've never had something I couldn't work around. I couldn't have sat here for this whole interview. That's why I was concerned about this. And it forced me to kind of take like 4 weeks off of squatting and back training altogether and really movement altogether. I couldn't lay there. It was miserable. It also probably gave me a new level of empathy for my patients. I thought I knew everything about back pain. I was wrong. That's a whole nother monster. I was so wrong. So it's probably given me a new level of empathy. But I've been thinking about some of the nuanced stuff that I really appreciate about the gym that most people don't know. So why does training environment matter? You know what I mean? Like as someone who's been to a bunch of gyms, from the parking lot that gym's for you. You know what I mean? You can tell, you can feel the environment, you can feel the energy. Where some people will walk into a Planet Fitness and be like, "No, this is great." They don't know what that feels like. So I started thinking about some of the components of what makes a really good gym. And so one of the things I thought about is there's some cueing that happens in your environment just by showing up there. The smells, the sounds, of course, the equipment and the price are a big factor, but there are things there that are intangible. So let's say, for example, every Sunday you go to your grandma's house, you eat a big meal, and you sleep on the couch. When you walk into grandma's house, you feel relaxed, right? Your training environment should also cue that this is the place to work. So you should be able to kind of feel that in the air. And that's something that, I don't know, I've been thinking about a lot lately is what are the components that makes that feel like that? The gyms that you and I love probably aren't that profitable. The stuff that you and I like, the intensity, the chalk and the chains and the tetanus, you know what I mean? Most people don't want to go to those gyms, you know what I mean? But to me, getting around people who are doing what you want to do at a high level makes it fun to do that. It's contagious. You can feel in the air. You want to push each other. In fact, then I kind of went from there to why does a training partner matter? And so your training partner should almost kind of be the same type of deal where my favorite training partner, I really train with him now because he travels for work. And he joked the other day, he goes, "Man, if we were still training together, we'd be huge or we'd be hurt," because we pushed each other in a way that was competitive. I mean, when you saw us in the gym together, you probably didn't think we even liked each other. You know what I mean? The way we were talking to each other and the way we were one-upping each other and pushing each other. But I think your partner should be able to do that in a healthy way. There should be some consistency there with, honesty. Is your partner, is he going to lie about your depth? You know what I mean? That's going to matter at the end. Are their standards for training similar to yours? There's other things like, what components of a coach might be good. So going back to maybe communication, or some of the intangibles there is figuring out, what kind of coach you do need, like what kind of learner you are. Do you need a coach that holds your hand? That's become a really big thing that kind of driven me away from coaching high-level bodybuilders, is they feel like they have 24/7 access to you. And so when I got pretty heavy into coaching, there was a period there where I gave people my cell phone number. Terrible idea. 11:30 at night. Hey man, I'm in the grocery store. They don't have this brand of jasmine rice. What brand should I get? I'm like, dude, it doesn't matter. Just pick one. We'll modify the plan if we have to. You know what I mean? Or they ran out of this. Like, I don't care. That's been one of the things that's driven me kind of away from coaching. And the other thing is, once coaching became about who can manage 16 different compounds, I kind of lost a desire for it, man. Those things I know play an important role, but I think a lot of the new lifters are leaning so heavily on drugs that they're not training well, they're not eating well, they're not resting well. This is the thing that they need. This is the lever you turn when things aren't going well. They don't go back and look at, was my training effective? Am I sleeping effective? Have I hit every meal? Is my hydration good today? They're like, ramp up the gear. And so I think those are a couple of things that's kind of driven me away from coaching at a high level, I guess. And so now I don't take as many new clients, and I don't take very many novice.
Hey guys, I just wanted to take a moment because we do read the comments, and one of them that keeps popping up more frequently than not is, I can't believe this video doesn't get more views. Take a minute to subscribe, leave a comment, and share. It really does help. Well, the coaching thing is it's always kind of been a weird thing to me because I didn't grow up with that. I grew up with like earning the right to be able to train with people. Yeah. And then those people would help you, if you showed that you were actually coachable.
Yeah. If coachable. Right? Yes.
Right. Yes. And I think that if I'm going to distill it down, the one variable that's kind of missing from that whole strength sport coaching space now is that the people who are looking for these coaches aren't asking themselves if they're actually coachable. Yep. Right. I agree. And then how they're coachable.
I agree.
Right. If they can figure out how they're coachable, then they can find a better coach. Sure. That kind of fits that, but it's not up to the coach to be able to teach somebody how to be coachable.
Right. Actually.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
The time I came up, I was fortunate in some regards because I was just thrown into a gym with a lot of powerlifters, but that didn't mean they were like, hey, come here. Right. And we're going to write your program and train you for this meet. Right. You had to go in there and fucking bust your ass and kind of just shut up, train hard and, kind of like earn the right into that. Then, going to college, it's like, where's everybody trained? You figure out which gym it is. Then you got to go there. You got to train fucking hard. Yeah. You got to scout the area, kind of see who you potentially want to be able to train with, and then earn that right to be able to kind of like get into that group. So it's the coachability is kind of built in, all that, because if I'm going to seek this person out that's at a higher level than me, then they're going to tell me to do something. Then I'm going to probably listen to what they tell me to do. Otherwise, why did I seek them out in the first fucking place? Right. I didn't seek them out to tell them how much better I am at what I'm doing. Right. They wouldn't have fucking ever taken me on. Yeah. Right. But that was all interpersonal. Yeah. Where it's online now and they're reaching out for a coach, and that's fine. I've kind of come to terms with all that. That's fine, but I still don't think that the onus is also on the person hiring the coach.
Yeah, I agree 100%. That's the first step of picking a coach.
Yes, to be coachable. Yeah. If you want to do all the same shit that you're doing now and you just need somebody to help orchestrate it, then find somebody for that. Right. Don't go to this one person that's known for this whole different protocol, this whole different thing. Yeah. And then fight changing everything. Like, you dumb fucker, you decided to do this.
Yeah. You're electing to be here. This is your sport. This is your hobby. What drives me nuts about bodybuilding now is bodybuilding and powerlifting too is one of those things where it's running 24/7. Every day you're eating the food, you're doing the stretching, you're whatever you got to do. Most sports aren't like that. And so to me, that should be like a window open on your computer. It's minimized, but it's there, it's in the back, it's running. You don't have to necessarily see it. Where people, I think, sometimes go wrong is, today I'm going to war. I'm going to war with the gym. I'm like, no, you're not, man. Go train, eat your food. I think we've made it too, I don't know. It's sensational. Again, I think it's all driven by social media, though. I think
it is,
we
but
need
it's
clicks.
I like to see you live in the real world, not the digital world,
Yeah.
right? What we see is not real,
Mhm.
right? You have a gym,
No, yeah,
right?
yeah,
You have
for
a
sure,
gym,
for
right?
sure,
So
yeah.
I'm going to assume that most of the people in your gym, the higher percentage,
Yeah.
are not posting all their shit online,
Right.
right? They're just going in there and they're doing the work, right?
Right.
And that is the majority of the people that go to gyms.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
But when you're online, you don't see any of those.
Exactly.
And then you think the majority of the people that go to gyms are the ones that are online.
Sure.
And you're wrong.
Right.
That's not true.
Right.
It's,
Absolutely.
It's
yeah.
bullshit.
Yeah.
It's you letting yourself fall for this fake psyop
Yes.
of what's not actually true.
Right.
Like even when they're in the ones that do post a lot,
Yeah.
when they're in their own gym and they're filming their stuff, like look in the video that they film and look in the background, and you'll see like 10, 15 people who are just all training.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not filming their shit.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the minority of the people are the ones posting online.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And they shouldn't form the majority of the opinion of what's actually being done.
Yeah.
Because it's fake.
Right. Exactly.
It's not.
Well, and so that's one thing that we've ran into when open the gym here. When a new gym opens, the first population of people to show up to that gym are going to be young men. You know what I mean? That's just what it is. So immediately, oh, it's a bro gym. I said, not necessarily a bro gym. That's the first group that's always going to show up to a gym. And then, of course, we start reposting some of the stuff that people are posting because, you got to keep the algorithm on. And it's all dudes because those are the people who feel comfortable. So that's like they're flexing and they've got their shirt off in the posing room or they're hitting a big PR on a deadlift. So what we've been trying to do a better job is documenting some of the women there too, so they feel comfortable coming in also. We have a lot of women. In fact, we might have more women patrons than men, but we got this misconception it's just a bro powerlifting bodybuilding gym. Most of the people that come in there, this is the other thing that drives me nuts. I don't want to be a bodybuilder. I'm like, it's not going to happen on accident. You know what I mean? They're like, I don't want to get too bulky. And trust me, I've been trying to get bulky for 20 years. It hasn't happened yet. To me, that's like saying, I don't know. I'm going to quit driving because I don't want to be a NASCAR driver. Like, okay, like you're not going to get there. You know what I mean? And most people aren't even capable. In fact, that's part of the reason why I don't think general population or really even most average athletes need a great coach. They probably don't even need a good one. They just need someone to hold them consistent so they do the thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, just about consistency, basically. Showing up and finding a program that works for you, give it some time to work, and then make a modification.
Yeah, it's not that complicated.
No, it doesn't have to be that complicated. I think we've made it too complicated.
Any other topics that you want to go over?
I can't think of any right now, Dave.
All right.
It's kind of overwhelming to put all this together. I was really worried about this last time when I had to reschedule because I didn't know what you think. I'm a flaky guy, but man, I've never had pain like that before. It was unreal, man.
So outside of the empathy, what'd you learn from it?
I was overreaching. So my days aren't any longer, but my people interactions are. So, getting to the gym at 5 a.m. and being awake at 5 a.m. is different. So like training somebody at 5 a.m., doing, 4 or 5 training sessions, then going to my usual chiro day, and then maybe adding 2 or 3 at the end of the day. Doesn't feel like a super long day. I would be moving during those times anyways, but the extra people interaction was exhausting. And so I think I was probably overreaching because I would love to say I hurt my back deadlifting. It wasn't, and it's like we talked, it's never that. I think I was overreaching, probably impacting my recoverability. I didn't, cut back on my training because it was fun. It's a brand new gym. I'm excited. I'm getting after it. I'm training with 22-year-olds. You know what I mean? It feels good to be the old strong guy. You know what I mean? So I was probably overreaching. I've decided that 6 a.m.s are fine. 5 a.m.s are not okay for me. And I'm not going to take any after 6 p.m. either. And so I think once I've done that and have kind of reeled things back, I think a lot of my back pain may have even been a stress component. So it might be one of those psychosomatic situations where I was just so stressed that it was manifesting somewhere else. I see that a lot in folks who will come into the office and there might be mechanical issues there. So let's say like mine was an L5-S1 disc lesion. I was getting radiculopathy, sharpshooting pain down in my leg, which may have always been there. But let's say that I'm stressed to the max and I'm not clearing inflammation well. Inflammation also occupies space. So if I have a disc bulge from years and years and years of squatting, that's occupying space. It may have been there for a while. If I also got sick at that time. So I haven't been sick in like a decade. I had the flu. It was awful. Like a temperature of like 3 days. I wasn't able to go into the clinic or the gym or anything. And I think that might have kind of predisposed me to some of that. And it was a mess, man. I tried like a million different modalities. We did tons of chiropractic work, which helped a ton. And ever since I've been doing all those things every day. So I've ramped up my flexibility routine. I've been doing more core work than I ever have. Ordered a new reverse hyper. I want to spend some more time on that. So there's lots of things that I'm doing now personally that I don't necessarily think everyone needs to do, but for my issues, keeping something in my life that's uniquely my own, something that's just for me, I think is really important for people. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, leaving your family all weekend to play golf. It might be, I like mowing grass and splitting wood, which is more work, but to me, it feels relaxing. It's a task. I can see what's going on there. If I'm, halfway through the yard and it's 2 hours in, I said, cool, I'll be done in 2 hours and we're making good progress. Same thing with like splitting wood. It's enjoyable for me. It feels like play. It doesn't feel like work.
Well, it's a simple brainless task.
Brainless, man. It's nice to zone out.
In a way, it's kind of meditation without being meditation.
Exactly. That's how I feel about the gym too. So there's a lady I've been training for about a year now. She's down like 70 pounds. She does a ton of meditation. She travels the world and does like silent retreats for like a month at a time. And she was asking what I love about the gym. And so I told her, with all the things I have going on, this is an hour where no one asks me any important questions. I don't have to make any critical decisions. It's just me. I do some of my best thinking here. I really enjoy it. And she goes, wait, so you're meditating? I said, no, I'm banging and clanging. The music's loud. I move around. She said, no. That's not what meditation is. I was like, what do you mean? She's like, meditation is when your mind and your body could be in the same location at once. And I was like, oh, maybe you're onto something here. Maybe this is my form of meditation. Because if you're not, focus is dangerous. You know what I mean? It might be like that, the Rise of Superman book we were talking about. It's easy for me to find flow in the gym where I'm like, damn, it's already been 55 minutes. All right, I got to wrap up or whatever. You know what I mean? To me, it's really enjoyable. That's the easy part. Showing up every day and having those hard workouts where somebody pukes, that's a privilege to me. You know what I mean? Like I talk to the college kids that come in, they're training with their boys. I'm like, you guys enjoy it. These would be the most memorable days of your college experience. It would be right here, training until you squat until you puke, or deadlifting until someone gets injured or someone's bleeding. You know what I mean? We still talk about those workouts all these years later. And so I think people are afraid of coming in and doing something hard, but man, it feels good. It feels really good. I think that's like a misconception with the training, that it should be miserable. I try to keep it fun. When I'm programming for myself, let's say for a back day, if I'm going to do 4 movements, on the drive in, I think about 2 movements that give me anxiety. Something that's so hard that I don't want to do that this week. And then I think of 2 that maybe I'm good at, or maybe I'm really looking forward to keep those in the program, to keep it fun. And so when I'm praying for other people, I'll even ask them, what's something you do not want to do? Dude, I don't want to squat. Right, squat, we're doing that today. What's something you're really looking forward to doing? Oh man, that leg press last week, I killed that. Okay, we do some leg press. I don't tell them that, of course, you know what I mean? But I try to program in stuff they don't want to do too, because I think there's something special happens there.
What's the best way people to find you?
Social media, Bodybuilding Doc on Instagram, Doc's Gym Athens on Instagram, butchersbites.com, docsgymathens.com, all the usual stuff. Yeah.
We'll have all the links in the description. Any final thoughts?
No, thanks for having me, man. This has been a lot of fun. You got a really cool situation here.
No, this is great. It's I always like talking to people that are actually doing the work.
That's why I was looking forward to talking to you, because I know you're entrepreneurial, like you've been in this too. And it's cool to see how other folks have grown. When someone comes into the office and they own their own small business, usually I try to block off a little extra time there to just vent about similar problems. So like if someone comes in, they have like a excavating company, it's completely different than what I do, but there's still some commonalities there. They'll say, hey man, do you do your own social media? Yeah. So I started using this app, man. It saved me an hour a week. Cool. Let's talk about it, man. Save me some time. Or my bookkeeper did this way, and that saved me $8,000 last year. Well, who's your bookkeeper? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's been more valuable than all those business classes I've gone to and all those seminars. It's the same information over and over. It's the interacting with other individuals and figuring out what they figured out.
100%, because they're doing it.
They're doing it. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me, man.